The FIA will be bringing a new technical directive to the Singapore Grand Prix. The new technical directive is not entirely new. A similar technical directive was also in force in 2021 until the end of 2022. In 2023 though, the technical directive, which was more or less a solution to a temporary problem, was included in the set regulations. Since this year, the flexibility allowed is more precisely defined in the regulations. But now it is necessary to reintroduce a technical directive to close down on loopholes that teams have found throughout the year, especially through certain interpretations of text in the rules, as Formula 1 teams always do. Goss has said, but over the season, we felt that there has been a little bit too much creep in the design details of aerodynamic concepts and components. The FIA has been paying explicit attention to 4 main issues. The first indicates movement. Up, down, front, rear, left, and right of the wings relative to component that it is connected to. The second is more or less the same, but says that the wings are also not allowed to rotate relative to other components. Thirdly, elastic components are also not allowed. Materials that can move under certain pressure and then easily bend back to their original shape. Finally though, components with a soft and bendable edge on the back are also prohibited. This material could prevent cracking due to deflection. So a lot of loopholes closed now in the regulations by the FIA, just trying to crack down on any little loopholes that teams are able to find and where they're able to just eke out any little bit of performance. Maybe this is Red Bull, maybe this is some of the other teams. We don't necessarily know who this is aimed at, or maybe this is just general loopholes being changed by the FIA, things that they've maybe done research and found that they're just closing it down to make sure that there is fairer racing going forward into the future. And hopefully this does maybe cause a bit of an upset in the Singapore Grand Prix and we see other teams being a little bit closer to each other. Maybe Red Bull falls back a little bit due to these regulations coming in. We will have to wait and see. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for another daily news video here in another race week. Very exciting once again to be in a race week, and nonetheless it is the Singapore Grand Prix race week, a very exciting one coming up this weekend. Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's though get into our first article here. Helmut Marko has finally come out and apologized for his offensive remarks about Sergio Perez. The Red Bull consultant, Helmut Marko, has apologized for blaming Mexican driver Sergio Perez's fluctuation in form on his cultural heritage. The 80-year-old Austrian, who is an advisor to the dominant Formula 1 team, issued a formal statement on Friday via the Service TV website. I would like to apologize for my offensive remark and want to make it absolutely clear that I do not believe that we can generalize about the people from any country, any race, and any ethnicity, Marko said. I was trying to make a point that Sergio Perez has fluctuated in his performance this year, but it was wrong to attribute this to his cultural heritage, Marko added. Marko, a former racer and close friend of the late Red Bull owner Dietrich Mateschitz, had made his remarks on the energy drinks company's television station following last weekend's Italian Grand Prix at Monza, wrongly describing Sergio Perez as South American. We know that he has problems in qualifying, he has fluctuations in form. He is South American and he is just not as completely focused in his head as Max Verstappen is or Sebastian Vettel. These are the comments that landed him in that hot water. And yeah, it is not the first time that Marko has referred to Perez as being from South America. The Mexican, though, comes from Guadalajara, which is geographically in North America. An earlier attempt by Marko to clarify his comments only dug him in deeper. Yeah, certainly not going too well for the Austrian of Helmut Marko there. With the Austrian news website OE24 reporting Marko as saying it wasn't meant that way. I meant that a Mexican has a different mentality than a German or a Dutchman, but who knows, maybe it is controlled. Yeah, and as I said, that landed him even hotter water. While Marko attends races in Red Bull racing uniform, he reports to the energy drink company and is not an employee of the British-based Formula 1 champions, who had no immediate comment. Nevertheless, Marko's ill-advised comments have sparked an online backlash among fans and made headlines in Mexico. This cannot keep happening to Sergio Perez, declared motorsport website The Race on Friday. He deserves better than to have to grin and bear derogatory comments from a senior figure in Red Bull's Formula One organization. The way Helmut Marko talks about him needs to stop. I certainly agree with this. Yeah, a lot of people having a lot of backlash over Helmut Marko's comments, and then continuing with this feed, with this comment here, the Red Bull Racing daily feed on social media site X, formerly known as Twitter, commented or commended Marko's comments in a statement to its 35,000 followers. Such comments will not be tolerated. A racial stereotype was used to criticize his performance, which is absolutely disgraceful and inexcusable, it said. Perez joined Red Bull in 2021 with the team looking for a solid driver to support Dutch teammate Max Verstappen, who is now heading to his third world title, with Germany's Vettel having won 4 world titles for Red Bull from 2010 to 2013. The Mexican has won 6 races, 2 of them this season, and has a contract until 2024. He is second overall in the championship, but is 145 points behind his teammate Max Verstappen right now, and his future in the team is kind of unknown at this moment. Marko did compliment Perez for finishing second in Italy last weekend, a race that handed Verstappen a 10th victory in a row. He has had a very good race, overtaking 3 drivers in George Russell and the Ferraris, which was not easy, said the Austrian. Yeah, well, glad that Helmut Marko has finally come out and apologized for his derogatory comments against Sergio Perez, and glad that he has finally come out and done all of that. Moving on, though, to our next article, staying on the topic of Red Bull, though, Sebastian Vettel has been reunited with Red Bull's RB7 in their Nordschleife demonstration run. Sebastian Vettel was reunited with his 2011 title-winning Red Bull RB7 during this last weekend ahead of the annual 12-hour endurance race at the Nurburgring. The 4-time Formula One world champion took to the full 15.7-mile combined Nordschleife and Grand Prix track as part of Red Bull's Formula Nurburgring event, alongside a host of other high-profile drivers, riders, and vehicles, including David Coulthard in a 2012 RB8, which was originally set to be driven by Daniel Ricciardo. Until the Austrian was ruled out, of course, due to his broken wrist. Sebastian Vettel drove his RB7 on the run, one of 5 cars built by Red Bull for the 2011 season, and one of 4 currently in service as a running show car for Red Bull promotional events. Chassis number 1 was driven by Mark Webber at that year's Monaco Grand Prix. Just find where I was. But was not campaigned by Vettel himself, who drove chassis number 3 for the first 12 races of the season before moving to chassis number 5. Vettel said, "The sound was great. Fortunately, I still fit in the seat," Vettel said in an Instagram live video broadcast after he tested the car on Friday ahead of the event. "The feel for the car came back straight away, and it was fantastic. Obviously, the cars are a little bit smaller than they are now, but they are also a lot tighter and a lot more agile. I'm very proud of that. I haven't gotten fat yet. It was a lot of fun." The car was being run on synthetic carbon-neutral fuel, previously showcased by Vettel at the 2022 British Grand Prix with a 1992 Williams FW14B that he owns, and at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this year with the Williams and a 1993 McLaren MP4-8, also from Vettel's own collection. "I feel like I'm in a time capsule. Lots of memories come back," said Vettel. "Everything fits together here today, including the fact that we now use synthetic, i.e. CO2 neutral fuels. Motorsport is my great passion, and I want to preserve the sport. Fuels can be produced synthetically and serve as a substitute. This may not be the only solution, but it is part of the solution. It is important that we all realize that we have to do something, and the best thing that you can do is not feel any difference in the car. It's just as much fun." It was Vettel's first time driving the RB7 since November 2014, when he drove the car in a demonstration run in Dubai, while his and Coulthard's lap at the Nürburgring marked the first time in a decade that modern Formula One machinery has taken to the Nordschleife, which was last used for a Grand Prix in 1976. Michael Schumacher made his final public appearance driving in a Formula 1 car in 2013 when he took a 2011 W02 out ahead of that year's 24-hour of Nurburgring. In 2007, Nick Heidfeld drove a BMW Sauber F1 06 on the track as well. Also in attendance at Formula Nürburgring was Gerhard Berger, driving a 1995 Ferrari F12 T2. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW FW25 that he won in the 2003 European Grand Prix, as well as a host of other cars as well. As Yuki Tsunoda, the Alphatauri driver, driving a Honda NSX GT3. So a very, very massive lineup of drivers and cars there this past weekend at the Red Bull Nordschleife run. I mean, I would have loved to have been there. That must have been an incredible event to have been a part of, and an incredible event to have gone and watched. Mark there saying in the comment section that Vettel needs to come back to Formula 1. I completely agree, but unfortunately, I don't think we will get him back in the sport anytime soon, unfortunately. But glad to at least have seen him in a car this last weekend, and always glad to see that smile of Sebastian Vettel's back in a Formula 1 car and back under his iconic racing helmets. Moving on though to some highlights ahead of this weekend's Singapore Grand Prix. Big Singapore upgrades are set to fire Red Bull's new plan to life. Red Bull's dominant ground effect concept might yield more success as Alphatauri's significant upgrades for Singapore are introduced. Since the start of the 2022 season, Red Bull's concept with their RB18 and RB19 has been the clear leader, as the Milton Keynes-based team have romped win after win, and are closing in on securing both titles once again this season. While there were plenty of different approaches taken by other teams at the start of the 2022 Converge, the Converge has been a key topic as rivals have abandoned their own concepts in order to switch to Red Bull's, or at least attempt to emulate as closely as possible. Alphatauri are one of the teams that are set for a major concept change, with Red Bull's second team, Alphatauri, having set out with their own design philosophy for the ground effect area, but unlike their senior team, have met with precious little success. While the Red Bull romped to the titles, their second team are currently last in the Constructors Championship and have scored just 3 points in 14 weekends of racing. Alphatauri are set for a revolution in 2024, with a name change and new sponsors coming on board, while long-time team boss Franz Tost will retire and hand over the reins to new team boss Laurent Mekies and CEO Peter Bayer. Between now and the end of the season, Alphatauri will also have to get used to a new car concept, with Bayer confirming to PlanetFormula1.com that they will converge on Red Bull's design philosophy, with a major upgrade coming to the AT04 at the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend. There are no quick gains, Bayer told Planet F1, about how Alphatauri will work more closely with Red Bull going forward. I mean, this year we've seen some amazing changes in the results scheme, when suddenly Aston Martin popped up, and then suddenly McLaren popped up. But I think that's really down to the fact that they all understood what Red Bull Racing did in terms of design philosophy is the right one, with this new downforce element with everybody in following. We actually have a big upgrade coming for Singapore, which will follow the same philosophy, so everybody's closing in on that, and I think next year will be extremely close. Asked whether the philosophy change will mirror that of the Red Bull's RB19, Bayer confirmed that will be the case. While critics of Red Bull are often loathing to recognise the fact that current rules prevent sharing of resources, intellectual property and even ideas, Alphatauri's autonomy as a team has resulted in them slipping backwards in the sport at a time where the parent company is otherwise dominating the sport. Far from exploiting potential grey areas and regulations, Alphatauri haven't even used all the permitted components that are available to them, with Bayer confirming there will be greater collaboration between Red Bull and his team going forward. With the cost cap and the technical regulations, you almost can't be like a sister or brother team. You have to be a Formula 1 team, he said. We need to go through that process of growing up, going through adolescence and starting to walk on our own feet. Obviously, not in contradiction with getting support from our family, and I think that's really where we're also supposed to achieve. That's what we want to achieve. We can still exploit the technical collaboration because we haven't done that in the past. It is well known by now that if you think about the importance of the suspension nowadays, and that we're not using the suspension which we are allowed to use, it simply is a mistake. There's a lot of gains to be made in the suspension of the Alphatauri team, because that is one of the key points where Red Bull's design engineer, I've just gone blank on his name, has spent the majority of his time, Adrian Newey. He spent the majority of his time in the suspension department, not in the aero department. So it's very interesting to see that you can make a lot of gains in your suspension department, and rarely Alphatauri should be taking those components, which they're legally allowed to do as a sister team. So very, very interesting going into the Singapore Grand Prix. Will we see the Alphatauris making major gains? Let us know what you think in the comment section. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reese. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reese here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Moving on though from that article about the upgrades coming for Alphatauri, we'll move on to another article about Red Bull. Red Bull's driver dilemma coming to head as Formula 1 star is set for a major career blow. Red Bull have 3 drivers on the books with strong arguments to race for Alphatauri. Currently in contention they have Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, or Liam Lawson. So you don't have to be a genius to know that 3 into 2 does not go, so Red Bull will have to inflict a potentially fatal blow on the career of one of its 3 drivers in the running for an Alphatauri race seat next year. And the truth is that, right now, they could go for any of the 3 combinations available. A few weeks ago, the most likely outcome was the status quo. Yuki Tsunoda's consistent start to the season and notable improvement in his racecraft seemed to have been enough to earn another year, and Daniel Ricciardo was back on the grid, energized and ready to make the most of his second chance in Formula 1. And then he crashed in practice at Zandvoort and broke his hand, of course, having him out of that seat now, possibly until Qatar. The Aussie has missed 2 races so far and will most likely be sidelined for a couple more, and during that time, Liam Lawson has had the chance to prove that he is ready for Formula 1. The New Zealander has gotten off to a very good start on that quest. While he hasn't scored a point yet in either 2 of his outings so far, he has though done really well in comparison to his teammate. The likelihood though is it is the performance of his car which has limited his results rather than the way he has driven it. Lawson has made his Formula 1 debut in a hectic Dutch Grand Prix, starting on dry tyres amid an immediate rain shower and then navigating the tricky wet to dry crossover before more heavy rain changed the game again. He finished 13th and then followed that up with an 11th place at the end of his first full weekend at Monza, a much better showing for the rookie. As Sky's Anthony Davidson pointed out, it is difficult to assess exactly how well Lawson has done so far, as his teammate Yuki Tsunoda did not start the second race in Monza. And F1's driver yardstick is always their teammate. So he did finish the race though ahead of the Japanese driver at Zandvoort, and by finishing 11th at Monza was only 1 place off of Tsunoda's best finish in 2023. So far, no one at Red Bull has had a bad word to say about Lawson. And he has 2 more races at least to make even more of an impression for the Red Bull execs, given that Ricciardo is unlikely to be given the green light to return in either Singapore or Japan. One thing's for sure though is that Daniel Ricciardo will be back at the end or before the end of this season. His current expected return date is for next month's Qatar Grand Prix, and Red Bull is committed to giving him the chance that was promised. Furthermore, Red Bull wants Lawson to complete his season in the Japanese Super Formula Series, with the last race weekend scheduled for October 28th to 29th. He is still in title contention, and if he is successful, will become one of just two non-Japanese champions in the last decade. The other being his fellow New Zealander, Nick Cassidy. The way he has driven both in Super Formula and in his short notice Formula 1 appearances this year has thrust Lawson into real contention for a 2024 seat. The question though, Red Bull must be answering is, have his performances been good enough to uproot either Tsunoda or Daniel Ricciardo on a permanent basis? And if they decide that answer is yes, then which one of these two drivers are getting the axe? Keeping Tsunoda fits more with Alphatauri's philosophy of developing young drivers, but Ricciardo's experience may prove invaluable to the team, which is in the midst of a significant transition. All of them will feel hard done by if they become the one whose Formula 1 career is placed under serious threat. So a very, very interesting topic there, asking who is going to be that driver kicked out of contention for the Alphatauri seat for possibly next season. Very, very interesting there. Who do you think is going to be in the running for that seat there? I'm going to end this poll here and ask you your opinions of who is going to take that second, or who is going to be the combination in that Alphatauri seat for 2023. Who will be the driver? So my question for you is, who will be the driver ousted from Alphatauri? So let's start with Tsunoda, Ricciardo, and our third option will be, let me spot Ricciardo's name right though. Our third option, of course, will be Lawson. James there, just saying, wonder how Perez feels about Helmut Marko's comments. There hasn't been a public statement from Perez yet, has there? No, as far as I can see online, there hasn't been any public statements made by Sergio Perez or his team. So very, very interesting that they have kind of kept quiet on it. I understand why. Of course, it's one of their main team bosses that has said something about them. I think they're kind of just waiting until Perez can leave the team. I think they're kind of over it at this point. Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that the end of Sergio Perez's contract with Red Bull is kind of ending in bittersweet terms. As Mark there says, Perez is too busy trying to find form, let alone a response. Well, I think Sergio Perez has proven that he has still got that form off the back of his Grand Prix weekend in Imola. He did quite well there, and I think he deserves maybe a renewal of that contract. But we'll have to wait and see what they do next year. Moving on, though, from that Red Bull article here, talking about Alphatauri drivers, we'll move on to Formula 1 setting targets for their 2026 regulations. And some of the rules have been released now with their regulations for 2026. Formula 1 targets a 50-kilogram weight reduction as part of their 2026 rules revamp. Formula 1's 2026 rules are on course to produce shorter, narrower, and lighter cars, with the FIA targeting a 50-kilogram weight reduction by 2026. Motorsports Racing's governing body is currently hard at work putting in place to outline chassis regulations for the next rules era that will kick off in 2026. As well as a planned shift towards active aero to help reduce drag on the straights, the FIA has offered some more details about what else could be changing in the next regulation changes. Speaking in an exclusive interview with Autosports' Italian language sister site motorsport.com.it, the FIA's head of single-seaters, Nicholas Tombasas, has said that the main shift will be in the size of the car. Thank you. With the dimensions of the wheels, which will be narrower, plus the rear wing and the car in general, we aim to reduce the weight of the cars by around 50 kilograms, he said. So it will be possible to see smaller single-seater cars, shorter and narrower, but we are talking about solutions that still need to be discussed. With the car on a diet, we will also be able to change cornering speeds a bit. Being lighter, they will go faster in straight lines, but will generate less aerodynamic load, so we will need to increase the hybrid's energy recovery to ensure adequate lap performance. The changes planned for 2026 will not have been without controversy, as Red Bull earlier this year warned of the potential for Frankenstein cars that would be impossible to race each other. There were even concerns about drivers needing to change down gear halfway down straights to try and boost their energy hybrid systems. Tombassis is clear though, however, that the FIA has put a lot of effort into ensuring that what is coming for 2026 works from the racing perspective. A lot of work has been done to understand how energy recovery and management will have been done and how overtaking can be done based on the aerodynamic configuration, he said. We have carried out many simulations by changing these parameters and have found solutions that seem to work adequately. Tombassis suggests, though, that some of the original concerns voiced about the performance of the 2026 cars were not based on up-to-date simulation models. If one took the 2026 power units and mounted them on current cars, probably the result would be the scenario put forward by those who were worried, he said. But in recent months, we have collected a series of very positive developments, so the comments expressed old positions. We also need to take into account that the engine and chassis will have to work together, and it will not be possible to think of one without the other. So, very interesting to see there what is possibly coming for Formula 1 in 2026. Certainly something myself and Mark have been really calling for smaller cars, more raceable cars, cars that can actually get side by side to each other in smaller circuits and street circuits. Hopefully with these reduced footprints of these Formula 1 cars, we'll actually get exciting Monaco Grand Prix. This is what we want to see. We want to see cars moving towards the regulations and sizes of old, from the 90s, from the 80s. Those cars were much smaller in footprint to the cars that we have nowadays. I understand that the cars have to be huge to get the ground effects working, but I mean, we're in 2023 already. We should be able to figure it out with active aerodynamics, which is what they're wanting to bring in for 2026. And I think it's really going to help a lot more in terms of the raceability of the cars, as well as just the spectacle of Formula 1 as a whole. So really looking forward to that. Moving on though to another article about Alphatauri. Alphatauri are closer to becoming Hugo Boss Formula 1 team. Hugo Boss are said to be the next sponsor of Red Bull's B team Scuderia Alphatauri, as the iconic German fashion brand extends its investments into Formula 1 with the goal of turning it into a winning outfit. Hugo Boss's CEO Daniel Grieder told Reuters last year, Formula 1 is also back better than ever. It's a global sport and they also have commitments to a more sustainable world and races. I think the sport is even more relevant than ever, and the whole world is watching and so many fans are into it, and I think it's also exciting at the moment. I think the balance that they have found now is perfect, said Grieder, of the Formula 1's Netflix Drive to Survive inspired boom in the United States. At the time, a company spokesperson added, Hugo Boss is realigning its existing commitments in sports, and we will concentrate only on Formula 1 in the future. Since then, the speculation has been rife regarding the future involvement of Hugo Boss branding in Formula 1. The company has a rich history with McLaren, their multiple championship-winning cars featuring the Boss logo, driven by the world champions Alain Prost, Niki Lauda, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, and Lewis Hamilton. The McLaren-Hugo Boss partnership dated back to 1981 and ran to 2015, before the clothing manufacturer switched to Mercedes. Since 2022, Hugo Boss are part of Aston Martin's partner portfolio until 2025. But talk in the paddock much of the season is that the plan is to take over Alphatauri and rebrand the Faenza operation to Hugo Boss Racing Team, or Scuderia Hugo Boss, or whatever they name the operation, starting in 2026. Hence, this is the last year of Red Bull's Alphatauri project, which began in 2020. Before the team was Toro Rosso, Red Bull in Italian, having morphed the program from F1 Minnows Minardi. It became the hotbed for Red Bull Racing's young driver talent development program. The likes of Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, among several drivers in Red Bull and Formula 1, have made their way through the junior team. Unlike in the earlier days, and its reason to be the team is no longer a Formula 1 driver development platform, as Pierre Gasly was given huge relief or huge refuge in the team after his Red Bull promotion failed, and remained there for 6 seasons. Eventually, Gasly departed, whereby they put in Nick de Vries, not from within their driver development pipeline, but also failed and was sent packing after 10 races. Yuki Tsunoda is on form in the other car for 3 seasons now, and is theoretically next in line to be promoted to Max Verstappen's teammate. Yeah, interesting though to see that there is the possibility of Hugo Boss coming to sponsor that second Red Bull team. I mean, it's been a massive talking point for the past few races, and I think we will have them coming into the sport, which is why we're seeing that promotion of all of these new CEOs and new team bosses in that Alphatauri team at the moment. And I think that's why they're realigning themselves for 2024 to try and appeal more to the likes of Hugo Boss. I see we have Hayden there in the comment section there saying, Helmut Marko forgets if it wasn't for Perez, Max wouldn't have won his first championship. I completely agree. And yeah, I agree that Sergio Perez does need to be appreciated more in that team, and certainly by Helmut Marko. Moving on though to another article here saying hidden mechanisms and concealed parts. What is triggering Formula One's Flexi-wing clampdown? The potential for hidden one-way mechanisms and movable parts concealed by rubber components have emerged as key driving forces behind the FIA's latest Formula One Flexi-wing clampdown. From this weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, the FIA has got tougher on the design of front and rear wings in a bid to stop teams from playing games with flexible parts. As first revealed by Motorsports.com, the FIA has demanded to see all designs and drawings of wings ahead of the Marina Bay race to check that they comply, and has outlawed specific race wing ideas that it believes contravenes the rules. This includes wing elements that move or rotate in relation to the bodywork. They are fixed to use elastomeric or rubber fillets that can help permit localized deflection, plus designs that use soft trailing edges to aid flexing. The FIA has long forced a battle to stay on top of the team's flexi-wing antics, but its single-seater director Nicholas Tombazis has revealed how it was pushed to respond after discovering the lengths some teams were going to get around the rules. In an exclusive interview with Motorsports.com's Italian site, Tombazis has explained that the thinking behind the new tough stance over flexi-wings. In the regulations, we have many flexible criteria. There are loads that we apply, and a certain deflection is allowed, he said. There are static tests that we do to check, and it is obvious that these tests are never perfect, because the direction of the test load you apply is always a bit different from the load that it has out on track, when it experiences genuine aerodynamic force. There may be differences for this reason in the regulation. There are some general and conceptual specifications that, in essence, prohibit mechanisms. For example, one could draw a wing that, when applying the forces of the FIA test, it is fixed, but when applying any other load, it could be more flexible. For this reason, we have been clarifying for years that mechanisms are not legal, and we have written several clarifications on what we consider a mechanism. Tombazis then suggested that a line has had to be drawn because of clever mechanisms that teams could use to get around the rules, which has included the use of designs hidden beneath rubber coverings. If under a carbon surface we have levers that allow deflection in one direction and not in another, we can consider this a mechanism, he said. Another thing we have said in the past that is not acceptable when a component has relative motion against an adjacent element, sliding in a different direction from it. What happened recently, some teams have components adjacent to each other that have a fairly high movement but do not slide in tandem. Because these areas are covered with rubber material, we do not consider this acceptable, and for this reason we have made a clarification. Tombazis suggests that the teams have been exploring this point with both individual front wing elements and the attachments with the nose. Furthermore, it has been inspecting the flexibility of lower wing components to the crash structure. The flexibility of upper wing elements has been policed thanks to the introduction of reference dots from the 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. He added, we have observed some rotations, and we have analyzed them with the teams because we conduct some examinations. At the track, we will open up their components to see what's underneath, or we will look at their drawings in CAD to better understand how their various elements work. Asked if this was done in collaborations with teams, Massa said, it's not that they want to, but they have to. Lately, we have seen drawings in which things were exaggerated. The trend was evident. So then we had intervened with a more severe clarification. So the FIA always going to try and get rid of ways that teams are going around the rules in 2022 and 2023 and going forward, because they want to allow teams to race more closely. We don't want teams finding little loopholes in the rules that allow them to make gains and just run away. Hopefully this is maybe finding where the Red Bulls are maybe finding a lot of pace this year, and maybe these clarifications are just going to rein them in a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see though what does happen in the Singapore Grand Prix. So just a little bit of stats going into the Singapore Grand Prix this race weekend. It is going to be the 16th round, if I'm not mistaken, of the Formula 1 Championship this year. It is a street circuit and has been held on the Formula 1 Grand Prix Canada since 2008. There's going to be 62 laps, and the circuit is a new circuit layout this year with only 19 corners. It used to be 21, but they have removed a section in the midsection with a new DRS detection zone being moved much further up. The track was built ahead of the 2008 Grand Prix here, and of course the circuit, one of the most physically demanding on the Canada, has a very bumpy street surface coupled with high humid conditions, giving the drivers plenty to think about throughout a lap. Even with a revised 2023 layout reducing the number of corners from 23 to 19, they are working with the wheel a lot. Around a high lap speed, the physical stress causing them to lose as much as 3 kilograms in body weight over the course of a race. So certainly one of the most grueling and enduring races that a Formula 1 driver must endure throughout a Formula 1 Grand Prix throughout this Canada year. So just talking a little bit about this revised circuit, I have spoken about it in another live news show, but just to go over it yet again, the redevelopment works in the vicinity of the track means that the section between turn 16 and 19 of the 2022 layout will now become one long 397.9 meters straight, reducing the total number of corners from 23 to 19. The changes, which are subject to the FIA approval, and will also require the removal of the bay grandstand while the redevelopment is carried out, are expected to see the circuit length reduced from 5.063 kilometers to 4.928 kilometers, with the number of laps in the Grand Prix likely increased from 61 to 63. Really looking forward to this race weekend. I always look forward to the Singapore Grand Prix. It's also very exciting for us as a channel because it marks our 1 year point from when we started doing watch-alongs with all of you guys. So really looking forward to it. Hope that all of you will join alongside with us for this Grand Prix race weekend. Mark there just saying to Singapore, crashes galore and potential red flags. Certainly, we always have a very exciting Singapore Grand Prix with lots of flags, lots of crazy weather. It's often during monsoon season here in Singapore, so who knows what it's going to be like this race weekend, but we're certainly really looking forward to it. Thank you very much though for joining alongside with us for this Formula 1 live news show. Please do be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let us know where you're tuning in from and who you support for this season. Thank you very much for watching me. I have been Reese. Cheers. Ex-Ferrari team manager slams Formula 1 teams over Max Verstappen. Red Bull are just 8 victories away from going the entire 2023 Formula 1 season unbeaten. Ex-Ferrari and Williams team manager Peter Windsor believes all the teams should hang their heads in shame amidst Red Bull's ongoing dominance. After 14 races in the 2023 season, Red Bull remain unbeaten, ahead of the upcoming Singapore Grand Prix, with Max Verstappen alone having won 12 races this season. 10 of those have come consecutively, something which saw him eclipse Sebastian Vettel's record for 9 wins in a row recently at the Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari's attempt at battling Red Bull at Monza was arguably the best attempt any team has made this season so far. There are genuine beliefs that Red Bull could go the entire season unbeaten though, something which has never been achieved in the history of the sport. Red Bull are just simply in a complete league of their own, thanks to being deadly consistent at all circuits. Windsor raises the point that if it wasn't for Red Bull, there'd be questions as to why no team can perform consistently since the introduction of the new aerodynamic regulations. Red Bull are the only team who can always get their car into the right window, making Windsor question whether the other teams have taken the wrong approach to the current regulations. If that isn't the case, then Windsor wonders if some teams have hired the wrong people. The way the regulations have been drawn up for these cars, the way 9 of the 10 teams have approached it, we're now in 2023. They've had 3 years of working with this thing, and they still can't get the cars to work properly and consistently over a season, Windsor said during a YouTube stream. If it wasn't for Red Bull, you'd have to be saying there's something wrong here. All these incredible Formula 1 teams, with their sophisticated technology, cannot get this thing to work on a consistent basis. But Red Bull are showing that it is possible, and therefore all the other teams have got the wrong approach. Either the wrong approach to hiring the people they're using to do the analysis and to design the cars, or they're unable to put what could very well be a very good aerodynamic package into practical use because there are so many new variables that have risen because of the budget gap, because of the limitation on CFD design, and because of all the other stuff that comes with that, including the sprint race format. Given off all those constraints, Red Bull have shown that it is possible to still do a great racing car consistently, from one race to the other. So long as Red Bull are showing that, everybody else needs to hang their head in shame, I think. Very, very interesting to see that Peter Windsor does believe that the other teams have just dropped the ball in terms of the new regulations. I'd love to know what all of your ideas and comments are on that. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reese. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reese here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports, here for another daily live news video. Yeah, once again, a lot of news to talk about. I'm sure everyone will be quite interested from the title of the video here today. Yuki Tsunoda faces a Red Bull style Yuki Tsunoda faces Red Bull style demotion threat as Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson make Alphatauri Dream Team for 2024. It was the much-awaited restart of the Formula 1 season in Zandvoort when Daniel Ricciardo fractured his hand during FP1. In the 2 races he had driven before his injury, Ricciardo showed just how good he can be when in a positive environment. The Alphatauri team was lucky enough to have Liam Lawson though travelling with them, giving way for a surprise Formula 1 debut for the New Zealander-born driver. Considering the circumstances around his debut, Lawson had a positive start to his career. With impressive performances, Red Bull is more than happy with the oceanic neighbours, ringing the sound of distress for Yuki Tsunoda. When Tsunoda had Nick de Vries as his partner, he had much less to worry about, given de Vries' subpar performances. However, with Ricciardo's addition, the Alphatauri camp dynamics changed quickly, with neck-to-neck competition between the new teammates. Now the Japanese driver faces another challenge in Lawson, who is equaling him in every step, despite being less experienced. Alphatauri has had 4 drives this season, which is more than the points they currently have in the Drivers' Championship. Despite Tsunoda being the only driver to bring in points in the team, Lawson and Ricciardo's short stints have had a heavy impact on the team, with the recent results even giving room for rumours of the duo being the preferred driver lineup for Alphatauri in 2024. Should this be the case, Tsunoda will move to Red Bull Racing as their reserve driver, and will have the testing and sim duties on his shoulders, making it an Alex Albon situation for him. With Ricciardo a part of their team, Alphatauri will have some much needed experience in their driver lineup, which will also help Lawson learn the ropes in his first few years with the team. The dynamic would mean Alphatauri will have the best of both worlds as they continue to improve as a team. In 2019, Red Bull announced the signing of Alex Albon to replace Pierre Gasly as Max Verstappen's counterpart. However, after failing to keep up with the Dutchman, Albon had to become the team's reserve driver, with Sergio Perez taking up his seat in 2021. The following year, after George Russell vacated the Williams seat, Red Bull fought hard for Albon to replace him, and now the Thai driver is having one of the best seasons of his career. With Tsunoda potentially becoming Red Bull's reserve driver, the example of Alex Albon could provide him with the hope of a continued career in Formula 1. However, a case can be made for whether or not the Japanese driver would want to be in that situation. For now though, all he can do is perform to the best of his abilities and hope for the best. Certainly would be sad to see Yuki Tsunoda act from that Alphatauri team, but if there are drivers performing at a better level, then you'd have to understand why he is getting taken out of that Alphatauri seat. We'll have to wait and see though what happens in 2024, but very, very interesting to see what does happen. I do have a poll there running at the moment in the comment section asking who do you see in the Alphatauri seats next year. Your options are Tsunoda Ricciardo as option 1, Lawson Ricciardo as option 2, Lawson Tsunoda as option 3, which currently has no votes, and then other for option 4. Please do be sure to go and vote in that poll, as well as to join us and commenting in the comment section. Let me know where you're watching alongside from, and let me know any questions that you may have for me here today. I'd love to answer any of those for you guys in the comment section. Moving on though to our next article, speaking a little bit about Daniel Ricciardo and his return to Formula 1 in the Singapore Grand Prix. Alphatauri confirms Ricciardo won't race Singapore Formula 1 round, but will be present. Daniel Ricciardo will attend Formula 1's Singapore Grand Prix, but will only work with Alphatauri in an engineering capacity, as he continues his recovery from a broken hand. Ricciardo has been absent from his stunted Formula 1 comeback since the early stages of the Dutch Grand Prix 3 weeks ago, where he broke a metacarpal in his left hand in a crash at the Hugenholtz corner in second practice. He underwent surgery on his injury 2 days later, as he was replaced for the event in Zandvoort by Red Bull Junior driver and 2023 Super Formula title contender Liam Lawson. Lawson has continued to deputise in Ricciardo's place a week later at the Italian Grand Prix, as well as this weekend yet again in Singapore. The scene of Ricciardo's most recent Formula 1 victory back in 2021, when racing for McLaren, which was of course in Monza, where Red Bull team boss Christian Horner suggested Ricciardo may miss 4 races in total and may only return at the Qatar round in early October due to the time needed in his recovery process. Ahead of this week's Singapore Grand Prix race though, Alphatauri's official pre-event media preview confirmed that Ricciardo will be present with the team in Singapore, only for engineering purposes though. The team gave no mention of Ricciardo's plans for the Japanese Grand Prix next week though. In the same press release, Lawson, who finished 11th last time out at his Monza outing, having pushed teammate Yuki Tsunoda close in qualifying too, said he definitely felt more comfortable in Monza than in Zandvoort, even if there's still a lot to learn. He added, "When you get more comfortable in these kind of cars, it can make quite a big difference. Having done 2 races now, I'm also getting a better understanding of the difference between the tyre compounds, which is so important. I'd say Monza was pretty successful, even if it was disappointing to finish so close to the points. I think if I had a better start, perhaps things could have been a bit different, but it is something that I will learn from, and I'm just excited moving forward. I know this is a very tough race physically, and when you get thrown into Formula 1 in this situation, even with all the training in the world, it's still such a tough adjustment. It's going to be very difficult, but we've had a lot of training for it and doing everything we can to prepare for it. Last year, I experienced the nighttime routine as Red Bull's reserve driver. It's cool, to be honest, to go through a weekend like that. It's a bit different to normal. Obviously, the biggest adjustments will be getting used to the track, as I've only driven it on the sim, and street circuits are probably the hardest to replicate. They take confidence, and when you're new to the track, or even in my situation, being new to Formula 1, having that confidence early in the weekend is pretty tricky. I'll be aiming to build up as many laps as we can, a bit like Monza, to be honest. That was the target there, and it will be a similar sort of thing this weekend. Generally, I like street circuits. For example, I absolutely love Monaco, so I'm expecting to enjoy Singapore too. Well, glad that we'll have Daniel Ricciardo back in Formula 1 and back in the Formula 1 paddock this race weekend in Singapore, and certainly looking forward to seeing what Liam Lawson can do this race weekend. I think, as he says he quite enjoys street circuits, we'll be waiting and watching to see whether he'll be able to have a good race weekend out here in Singapore. It's a very difficult track, but if anyone can do it, I think the rookie of Liam Lawson should be. Moving on though to another Red Bull based article, how Red Bull can win the Constructors Championship in Singapore this race weekend. Just jumping to the comment section quickly, I see Mark is there saying hello. Thank you very much for saying hi there, Mark. I see we do have a couple people though in the comment section. Do be sure to just let me know where you're watching from and say hi. Moving on though with this article, Red Bull's dominant Formula 1 season could see it clinch its first title of the year in Singapore this weekend. For the first time this season, Red Bull can walk away from a race weekend with the Constructors' Championship clinched. The Singapore Grand Prix hosts the 15th round of the current campaign, with the Marina Bay circuit offering a unique challenge to the drivers. Red Bull is currently enjoying a dominant campaign, with having won 14 races so far. 12 of those victories have gone the way of Max Verstappen, who is currently streaking towards his third Formula 1 title. Verstappen's highly impressive campaign has seen the Dutchman claim the last 10 race victories, setting a new record for the most consecutive wins in Formula 1 history. However, he is yet to triumph in Singapore. Red Bull also holds the record for the most wins by a team in a row, with its Monza victory increasing its tally to 15, stretching back to last year's season finale at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Currently, Red Bull holds a sizable lead over Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, with the German manufacturer a mammoth 310 points behind them. After the Singapore Grand Prix, there will be 353 points left on the Constructors' table across the remaining races of the season. It means that Red Bull must outscore Mercedes by 43 points to secure its first back-to-back titles since 2012 to 2013. The only way to do this is for Verstappen and Sergio Perez to finish a 1-2 to earn 44 points, with Mercedes not scoring a single point. Alternatively, should a Mercedes finish in 10th place and take 1 point, Red Bull would also need the fastest lap bonus point, in addition to a 1-2 to wrap up its 6th Constructors' crown. So highly unlikely that could happen this race weekend, but it is still a possible statistic for the Singapore Grand Prix that Red Bull could take their second back-to-back championship. We'll see what happens though. Moving on though to Toto Wolff. Wolff has claimed Hamilton lost the 2021 championship over a targeted Formula 1 rule change. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has claimed that Lewis Hamilton lost the Drivers' Championship in the 2021 season due to an F1 regulation change which targeted the silver arrows. After a standout 2022 season or 2020 season where the silver arrows dominated the competition, Lewis Hamilton finished 124 points ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas, on 347 points to equal Michael Schumacher's record for the most world championships. Speaking to Sky Sports, Wolff claimed Formula 1 altered the regulations in order to help their opponents close the gap. 2020 had been a super dominant year for us, said the Austrian CEO. I think it was the best car we've ever had. Then, towards the end of the season, they changed the regulations by cutting the floor, and that was to stop us. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reese. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reese here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. While the ever-controversial 2021 finale at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix remains a big reason why Mercedes lost the Drivers' Championship, Wolff believes a broader Formula 1 regulation change were made in order to stop them. We lost the 2021 Drivers' Championship for many reasons, he said. One was the final race, but we also lost it because those regulations were set in place in order to reduce the advantage we had had. Mercedes faced fierce competition from Red Bull throughout the 2021 season, and Wolff believes that regulatory changes played a crucial role in resetting the competitive landscape. We saw the results in 2021. We were not as competitive as Red Bull was, he said. But at Silverstone, we unlocked more potential of the car and got ourselves back in the championship. These regulations were targeted to reset the pecking order. Currently, with a lot of talk being around different championships of the past, there's a lot of people calling for Schumacher to lose his first championship. Of course, there's Massa trying to get back his 2008 championship. People always calling for Lewis Hamilton to try and get back his 2021 championship. Just a lot going on at the moment, and I don't know if we necessarily should ever go back and change the results of former championships and titles, because I think it's in the past. Sure, there may have been controversy, but that is what the sport is all about. We want to remember what happened in the past and maybe learn from it rather than having to go back and change it. We'll still have to wait and see, though, what does happen with that 2008 scandal and championship with Massa and Hamilton. Mark just saying there, why can't Wolff just keep quiet? Man just cried at the moment. As well as saying, lol, imagine Red Bull somehow do win this weekend. Would be down to all the others messing up badly. Yes, it would be down to others messing up badly. I also have a little bit of news about the weather this race weekend. That could also be coming into play. Moving on, though, to another article. Formula 1 news. Sebastian Vettel teases a Japanese Grand Prix return. Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel have planned something special. Always with special. I always say special. Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel have planned something special for Suzuka. Reports are that four-time champion or four-time Formula 1 championship winner Sebastian Vettel could be returning to the Formula 1 paddock this year at his favourite Suzuka Grand Prix circuit for the Japanese Grand Prix. Vettel took part last weekend at the Red Bull Nurburgring event, where he drove around the legendary Nordschleife circuit in his Red Bull RB7. The retired driver relived his Formula 1 days during the event as his Formula 1 car roared through the green hell after 10 long years. After the event, he revealed that the motive to participate in it was to inspire people to have fun in a more responsible way. His initiative, called Race Without Trace, aims to raise awareness of the benefits of sustainable fuels. Suzuka is a circuit that Vettel has a soft corner for, and he seems to have mastered it well, as he had won his second title there in 2011. Not only that, but during his run with Red Bull, Vettel won all 4 races in Suzuka from 2009 to 2012. After announcing his retirement last year, Vettel revealed that if he was given the chance to race in Suzuka again, he would seriously consider the opportunity, as a once-off come back to Formula 1. From the looks of it, Red Bull seems to have paid attention to his words, as the 36-year-old is all set to be with the team in Suzuka. Although he was racing for Aston Martin in the last season of his career in Formula 1, from a recent tweet with Red Bull Racing Daily on X, it looks like the Milton Keynes-based outfit and Vettel have an event planned at Suzuka. Fans could expect some high-speed drama at the event, with Vettel most probably racing around the circuit in his RB7 Formula 1 car. But the nature of the event still remains a mystery. On the Red Bull Racing Daily Twitter or X page, they had a tweet that said Sebastian Vettel and Formula 1 are planning something for the Japanese Grand Prix. He has also revealed that he is also a little nervous about the planned special event in Japan. The news broke out after Vettel revealed to a reporter from Sports Show that there would be a special event in Japan that he was a little nervous about. However, the details of the event have been kept a secret, maybe to surprise the fans. I'm not sure if his presence at Suzuka would be solely for the promotion of his initiative, and is Vettel planning a Formula 1 comeback anytime soon? Only time will tell. I'd love to get Sebastian Vettel back in Formula 1 in the future. He is only 36 years old. He's younger than Lewis Hamilton. He's younger than, of course, Fernando Alonso. I'd love to see him back in the sport. It would be a great addition I'd love to see him maybe in Audi having Mick Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel. Could you imagine? That would be a phenomenal driver lineup. Moving on though to our final 4 articles now of the day, McLaren have revealed a special stealth mode car livery for the Singapore and Japanese races. McLaren will use a new livery design at the upcoming back-to-back Grand Prix weekends in Singapore and Japan, as the team continue to celebrate their 60th birthday year on and off the track. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri will contest 2 races with what has been described as a stealth mode scheme, switching McLaren's usual colorway and augmenting black against the car's classic papaya trim. The livery has been co-designed by McLaren and OKX, a Web3 technology company and official partner of the working squad, representing how both brands strive for excellence while embracing change and innovation. Alongside the livery, a limited edition t-shirt will be made available throughout the McLaren store, and a limited giveaway for attendees of the Token 2049, the Web3 conference taking place in Singapore prior to the race. OKX will also be hosting a McLaren-themed fan zone in Singapore from Thursday, September 14th to Sunday, September 17th, featuring a stealth mode show car, racing simulators, giveaways, and special guests over the weekend. Very exciting. I always enjoy seeing different and exciting different stealth and different liveries on these cars this year. I've really enjoyed the different liveries that McLaren have done. I think this is their 4th of the year. There was the triple crown livery that they revealed close to the year. There's been their normal livery, there's been the chrome livery, and now this livery. So yes, that is the 4th livery for McLaren this year. Very exciting. Glad to see that they are changing things up a little bit and just making things a little bit more exciting for the fans this year. I think their car could be quite fast with this edition because, they're taking off a lot of paint, so their cars are ever so slightly lighter, and we'll have to wait and see whether they're going to be quite competitive in Singapore this race weekend. I'm certainly hoping they are going to be. Marksbox saying there in the comment section, only if that McLaren livery didn't have the Google wheels. I agree. Also saying there, Vettel coming back at his favourite track. Very exciting for Sebastian Vettel, of course. Moving on, though, to our weather prediction for this Grand Prix race weekend. 2023 Formula 1 Singapore Grand Prix weather forecast. After a dry weekend at Monza last time out, will rain return for the round at Singapore? This weekend, the Marina Bay Circuit plays host to the Singapore Grand Prix, the 15th round of the current Formula 1 campaign. After the first completely dry weekend for some time, the last time out at Monza, rain could return for the Singapore event and add a further challenge for the drivers. Singapore has a tropical climate, which makes it hot and humid all year round. The daily maximum temperature is between 30 and 34 degrees Celsius, and at night it rarely gets colder than 25 degrees Celsius. Daily showers are common, and there's sometimes the threat of thunderstorms in the area. According to our friends at weareonline.com, Friday practice is expected to be dry. The chance of showers though is small, resting at around 20%, and the temperature will rise to around 33 degrees Celsius at the hottest time of the day. However, over the weekend, the threat of rain will increase. On Saturday, the day of qualifying, there will be a 40% chance of a shower at the track. On Sunday, more showers will develop in the region, and the chance of rainfall is over 60%. However, most of the showers will fall in the afternoon. As both qualifying and the races do not start until the evening hours, it does not appear as though the track will be heavily saturated for those sessions. On both Saturday and Sunday, temperatures will rise to 32 or 33 degrees Celsius. Once the race commences, the sun would have already set, but the temperature will not cease much. At the start of the Grand Prix, which is scheduled for 8 PM local time, it is expected to be 29 or 30 degrees Celsius. Yes, hopefully the weather does not affect the Grand Prix all that much this race weekend, although saying that, I think rain could make the race quite exciting on Sunday. We do have 60% chance of rain, but it is expected to fall more likely during the day rather than during the night when the race is taking part. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, and yeah, hopefully we do get some exciting weather making its way over the track, because I think that it could just make some really, really exciting action out on track for all of us, viewers and commentators alike. So moving on though to the FIA, the FIA has revealed plans for more aggressive Formula 1 wheel cover solutions for their next spray tests. The FIA says its next planned test with spray guards on a Formula 1 car will feature a much more aggressive solution that completely covers the wheels. A first trial of an idea in Silverstone in July did not yield the results hoped for, with the wheel fairings used only reducing the spray thrown up by a small amount. Formula 1 chiefs know that a much bigger step is required if they are to limit spray enough to help cars race more in rainy conditions. The FIA's single-seater director, Nicholas Tombazis, has explained that following analysis of what happened at Silverstone, the next test will be with a much different design. What was done at Silverstone, with the help of Mercedes, who created parts, and McLaren, who ran a car to get feedback on spray, was perhaps too optimistic an experiment, Tombazis revealed. The spray guards covered a little bit too little of the wheel. I was quite skeptical and imagined that we wouldn't see important results, he added. In the next tests we carry out, we will test complete coverage of the wheel, going even beyond what would be needed to understand what the threshold is at which the spray forms. Then we will decide which path to take. Tombazis has explained just how complicated finding a solution is, with the excessive spray thrown up by Formula 1 cars being triggered by different factors. The first is from the water that is extracted from the tyres and shot upwards, he said. A second effect derives from the accumulation of water beneath the wheel and the asphalt in the tyre squirt area, which is between the wheel and floor edge, which is sucked up into the diffuser. The third effect is given by the water that stagnates in the cracks and in the ground and under pressure of the diffuser is sucked up and expelled. He added, "We believe that the spray coming from the wheels corresponds to approximately 40% of the total. If we were able to limit this phenomenon, it is clear that the drivers would not have complete visibility, but there would be a significant improvement." Tombazis had said the FIA has been looking at tools used by road car industry to simulate wet weather conditions when it comes to ensuring safety. "We have done some simulations, and they are tools that are often used in the production car industry, for example checking visibility for rear view mirrors, but these tools must be calibrated well to have a good correlation. The car manufacturers carry out very extensive calibration, as they do not have testing restrictions and do not have to deal with an FIA, which imposes constraints. They can act freely. We do not have the possibility to carry out frequent tests, so with limited activities, it is not easy to find the right calibrations." The deterioration can vary greatly, he said. In some configurations we tried, it was almost zero, while in the most extreme solutions we tested in the tunnel, we saw a loss of up to 80 points, which can be worth 2 or 3 seconds in lap time. But honestly, we don't really care about the performance threshold, although the teams are definitely watching it. In the Silverstone test, the solution tested had the lowest possible aerodynamic impact. Formula 1 CEO Stefano Domenicali suggested recently that that one other idea being looked at to reduce the spray was in relation to limiting the amount of water thrown up by the diffuser. Some cover could be possible, but Tombazis has ruled out interfering with specific design aspects in the tyre squirt area. It will take a lot of work from the teams, he said. Ideally, we would like to intervene with a solution that is put on and taken off only when there is a wet monsoon, which is perhaps once or twice a year. We prefer not to have to touch the machines. Other ideas may possibly be developed for the 2026 regulations. So very interesting to see there what is happening in terms of the teams developing these, or the FIA developing these solutions for the spray that is thrown up by the cars in really wet weather conditions. Hopefully they're able to come up with a solution that does help reduce the spray from the cars, because it does really limit the amount of racing that we can do in certain track conditions when it is too wet out there. Moving on though to our final article for you guys here today, Sergio Perez admits he needs to be very strong mentally to survive at Red Bull. Sergio Perez has admitted that any driver who is a Red Bull teammate to Max Verstappen cannot hope to survive without possessing great mental strength. After Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon struggled to contend with the performance level of Verstappen, Perez was next to give it a shot, as Red Bull brought him in ahead of the 2021 campaign. But even Perez, the highly regarded Formula 1 veteran, has had his lows alongside Verstappen. Arguably, the lowest of lows coming in this Formula 1 2023 season, as his targeted title challenge fell apart as his performance fell off a cliff. The Mexican racer has begun to steady the ship in recent rounds, making the podium 3 times over the past 4 races, having withstood a torrent of speculation over his Red Bull future. The team repeatedly affirming that their commitment to Perez until the end of 2024 at least, and have been asked by Autosport what it is like to be a Red Bull driver in that seat next to Max Verstappen. Perez replied, "It is tough, but if you want to drive for Red Bull, you have to live with it and be very strong mentally to survive it. We all have to appreciate what Max is doing, the level at which he is driving at the moment. It is extremely high. To give 100% every weekend, no matter what the conditions are. When you're his teammate, it is hard to digest." But while the results have picked up for Perez, there is still an alarming performance gap, which has opened up between he and Verstappen. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff called it a bizarre moment when Perez qualified 1.3 seconds slower than Verstappen at the Dutch Grand Prix, while last time out at Monza, Verstappen was almost 4/10 faster than his teammate come to end of qualifying, while on race day, Perez fought back against the Ferraris to score a Red Bull 1-2 podium. Verstappen claimed victory for a record-breaking 10th Grand Prix victory in a row, and as for where Verstappen is finding so much time over Perez in the same car, Perez suggested mainly in the fast corners, but there is no clear pattern. Then put him that Verstappen has no issues with oversteer, but he does. Perez replied, "Let's put it in this way. When the car tends to oversteer, the distance between us increases. The other way around, I'm much closer." Verstappen is now marching towards his 3rd World Championship in as many seasons, with his lead over Perez standing at 145 points, meaning P2 is now the best that Perez realistically can do. Still, that would satisfy Red Bull. The team has yet to experience a 1-2 finish in the driver's standings. Perez has not thrown in the towel just yet against Verstappen though, confirming that with 8 rounds of the season still to go, he is targeting adding a couple more wins to his current tally of 2. To find the former had at the start of the season and a few more races, said Perez, of his goal for the remainder of the season. To find the form I had at the start of the season and win a few more races, said Perez of his goal for the remainder of the season. Red Bull can potentially secure the 2023 Constructors Championship title already in Singapore if the results go their way. So, certainly very, very interesting to see the challenges that Sergio Perez currently has in that Red Bull seat alongside Max Verstappen. I can only imagine how difficult it must be to have to deal with a teammate like Max Verstappen, who is extremely consistent week in and week out. It's not easy for the likes of Sergio Perez coming in as that second driver in the team, but he has done really, really well nonetheless with the amount of pressure that is on him in that seat. That will be it though from me here today for Formula 1 news. Thank you very much for watching alongside with us. I see we do have Ashke Diman there saying FIA are trying to make the cars slower again. Yes, I have spoken about that at length. Do be sure to go and check my YouTube shorts. There's a lot of other YouTube clips that I've done speaking about the new FIA technical directive that is being brought in from this weekend onwards. Do be sure to go and check that out on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel as well, do be sure to go and hit that subscribe button. And yes, we hope to see you in the next video. Of course, we do have the Formula 1 Grand Prix, the Singapore Grand Prix, starting again next weekend, which is very exciting. Or not next weekend, tomorrow afternoon, which I'm very excited for. And I hope to see all of you alongside with us for that Grand Prix. Thank you very much, though, for watching this video with me. I have been Reese here for Forever Motorsports. Cheers. The FIA will be bringing a new technical directive to the Singapore Grand Prix. The new technical directive is not entirely new. A similar technical directive was also in force in 2021 until the end of 2022. In 2023 though, the technical directive, which was more or less a solution to a temporary problem, was included in the set regulations. Since this year, the flexibility allowed is more precisely defined in the regulations. But now it is necessary to reintroduce the technical directive to close down on loopholes that teams have found throughout the year, especially through certain interpretations of the text in the rules, as Formula 1 teams always do. Goss has said, but over the season, we felt that there has been a little bit too much creep in the design details of aerodynamic concepts and components. The FIA has been paying explicit attention to 4 main issues. The first indicates movement. Up, down, front, rear, left, and right of the wings relative to component that it is connected to. The second is more or less the same, but says that the wings are also not allowed to rotate relative to other components. Thirdly, elastic components are also not allowed. Materials that can move under certain pressure and then easily bend back to their original shape. Finally though, components with a soft and bendable edge on the back are also prohibited. This material could prevent cracking due to deflection. So a lot of loopholes closed now in the regulations by the FIA, just trying to crack down on any little loopholes that teams are able to find and where they're able to just eke out any little bit of performance. Maybe this is Red Bull, maybe this is some of the other teams. We don't necessarily know who this is aimed at, or maybe this is just general loopholes being changed by the FIA, things that they've maybe done research and found that they're just closing it down to make sure that there is fairer racing going forward into the future. And hopefully this does maybe cause a bit of an upset in the Singapore Grand Prix and we see other teams being a little bit closer to each other. Maybe Red Bull falls back a little bit due to these regulations coming in. We will have to wait and see. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Mercedes trackside engineer Andrew Chauvelin expects the team's form will improve at the upcoming Singapore Grand Prix. The team have not scored a podium since the British Grand Prix, with both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell receiving penalties at the most recent race in Monza. Although they had the pace to challenge for a podium at the high downforce Zandvoort circuit, the team made a gamble to stay out during the opening lap downpour, which severely compromised their race. Chauvelin expects a repeat of this form for the upcoming race around the Marina Bay circuit. There is a reason to think that the car will work better, and that is because Singapore is a maximum downforce circuit, he explained. Our performance at the high downforce tracks, like at Barcelona, Budapest, and even Zandvoort, the car was working well, and we've had pretty strong performance. We're hoping to be able to be a bit quicker here, and get back to a position where we can challenge for podiums. I'm certainly hoping that Mercedes can be very dominant and have a good race weekend in Singapore because, I mean, they've had great pace this year, but have unfortunately had some bad luck in certain races like in Zandvoort where they just got the wrong strategy calls. Hopefully they're just able to get it right in Singapore because we've seen you can really gamble on early pit stop calls, you can make big undercuts here. It's also forecast that there's possibly rain this weekend, so that could also come into play yet again. I mean, it is monsoon season normally around this time of the year in Singapore, so it's really an unknown. I'm sure a lot of people will be quite excited to hear that there's rain yet again. We'll see whether Mercedes can live up to expectations for this next race weekend. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reese. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reese here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Verstappen's win streak could be under threat in Singapore. Max Verstappen's bid for a record-extending 11th straight win faces a severe test in Sunday's perilous Singapore Grand Prix night race on the unpredictable Marina Bay circuit. The Red Bull driver's third world title in a row is only a matter of time, but the Dutchman has never triumphed under the lights in Singapore, where tropical storms, intense humidity, and concrete barriers all wait. Safety cars and red flags will almost certainly play a part too, with memories of an incredibly messy race in Singapore a year ago fresh in Verstappen's mind. Rain is again forecast for this race weekend ahead of us. Verstappen was only 8th on the grid in 2022 after being underfueled in Saturday qualifying, and a pre-race deluge saw him start poorly on the sodden track, dropping back 5 places. He clawed his way through the field with the help of several safety car and virtual safety car periods though, only to slither onto an escape road while trying to take 4th place, eventually rejoining, settling for 7th. Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez kept his cool out in front to win ahead of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and keep the champagne on ice for a bit longer. "It's better than 8th, but it's not what I'm here for," he said. "Not with a car like that. It was just incredibly messy," Verstappen ended. Verstappen leads Perez by 145 points this year in the current championship and could clinch the world title with 6 races to spare at next week's Japanese Grand Prix. Mercedes are second in the Constructors' Championship, a distant 310 points behind the Red Bulls, with team boss Toto Wolff believing that Red Bull are on course to win all 22 races this season. "I think they need to screw it up themselves," Wolff said after Verstappen's 10th win in a row at Monza a fortnight ago. "If they complete the clean sweep, Red Bull would eclipse the world record of Mercedes in 2016, when Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton won 19 of 21 races." Red Bull team principal Christian Horner warned though that the unique Marina Bay Challenge could upset their perfect season. "It's a street circuit. It's one of the toughest on the calendar. We saw last year how perilous it can be," said Horner. "We'll just do our best to keep this momentum running. One day we're going to get beaten. It's just a question of when, and we've just got to make the win as far away as we can." Wolff believes though that Mercedes may have their best chance to upset the Red Bull run on a track where straight line speed is not so crucial, but grid position is everything because of the difficulty in overtaking. "Singapore is back to high downforce and coming towards our direction a little bit more," he said. "It will be important for us to maximize that opportunity when it comes." Well, we'll have to wait and see whether the likes of Mercedes can possibly get on that top step here in Singapore. Helmut Marko has finally come out and apologized for his offensive remarks about Sergio Perez. The Red Bull consultant Helmut Marko has apologized for blaming Mexican driver Sergio Perez's fluctuation in form. Welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix. The 80-year-old Austrian, who is an advisor to the dominant Formula 1 team, issued a formal statement on Friday. "I would like to apologize for my offensive remark and want to make it absolutely clear that I do not believe that we can generalize about the people from any country, any race, and any ethnicity," Marko said. "I was trying to make a point that Sergio Perez has fluctuated in his performance this year, but it was wrong to attribute this to his cultural heritage," Marko added. Marko, a former racer and close friend of the late Red Bull owner Dietrich Mateschitz, had made his remarks on the energy drinks company's television station following last weekend's Italian Grand Prix at Monza, wrongly describing Sergio Perez as South American. "We know that he has problems in qualifying. He has fluctuations in form. He is South American and he is just not as completely focused in his head as Max Verstappen is or Sebastian Vettel." These are the comments that landed him in that hot water. And yeah, it is not the first time that Marko has referred to Perez as being from South America. The Mexican, though, comes from Guadalajara, which is geographically in North America. An earlier attempt by Marko to clarify his comments only dug him in deeper. Yeah, certainly not going too well for the Austrian of Helmut Marko there, with the Austrian news website OE24 reporting Marko as saying it wasn't meant that way. "I meant that a Mexican has a different mentality than a German or a Dutchman, but who knows, maybe it is controlled." And as I said, that landed him in even hotter water. While Marko attends races in Red Bull Racing uniform, he reports to the energy drink company and is not an employee of the British-based Formula 1 champions, who had no immediate comment. Nevertheless, Marko's ill-advised comments have sparked an online backlash among fans and made headlines in Mexico. "This cannot keep happening to Sergio Perez," declared motorsport website The Race on Friday. "He deserves better than to have to grin and bear derogatory comments from a senior figure in Red Bull's Formula 1 organization." The way Helmut Marko talks about him needs to stop. The Red Bull Racing daily feed on social media site X commented in a statement to its 35,000 followers, "Such comments will not be tolerated. A racial stereotype was used to criticize his performance, which is absolutely disgraceful and inexcusable," it said. Glad that Helmut Marko has finally come out and apologized for his derogatory comments against Sergio Perez. Felipe Massa's legal team hopes for support from Hamilton in 2008 Formula One title case. Felipe Massa's legal representation hope that the 2008 Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton will support his former Brazilian rival in his case to overturn the outcome of that year's title. Massa believes Formula One and the governing body were aware of the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix Crashgate scandal in time to take action before the championship was decided. Former Ferrari and Williams racer Massa says he is developing a subsequent legal case to gain justice for the sport, rather than recoup the tens of millions of euros that his team believes he has missed out on after losing that year's championship by 1 point to McLaren driver Hamilton. Bernardo Viana, that represents Massa in Brazil, hopes that Hamilton will support the case that would theoretically lead to him losing the first of his 7 drivers' championship crowns. Viana said he is an important ambassador for the sport and has always been defending sporting integrity.
So
we have absolutely nothing against Hamilton. Aside from Hamilton, it is known that Ferrari, for which Massa drove in 2008, will not join forces for the case. In the same interview, Viana also revealed that Massa's legal team have pushed back the deadline for Formula One and the FIA to respond to a letter before claim until mid-October. Previously, the letter, which outlined that the Formula One summer break and personnel being on holiday was not sufficient to reason for the Formula One management and FIA delays in replying, stated a deadline to respond of last Friday, the 8th of September. Ahead of potentially launching a formal challenge in the British High Court. Speaking to Motorsport.com last week, Viana said, "So we are waiting for their response. If their response is adequate, and if they approach us for any conversation, that is okay. If their response is not adequate, we're just going to move forward with the legal strategy that we have in place."
Hello, hello, hello. Am I coming through OBS? Yes, I know that. I'm asking the question. I have to ask it. Don't get upset with me because it's not working. Have you figured out where the speaker is by now? Hello, hello, hello. Give me TeamViewer. Or just take the speakers down and use your headphones. So then turn the speakers down. Well, that's what I was meaning when I said, have you figured out the speakers yet? And find out where the volume is coming from. Well, then unplug the speakers. Well, follow the aux cord. Hello, hello, hello. Easy. Cool. Right. Anyway. Perfect. And then am I coming through OBS at least as well? And my volume, I'm saying, is coming through OBS. It's all good. Perfect. Okay, so have you got the F1 feed open as a separate Google Chrome TeamViewer quickly? Just because we don't have much time. What am I connecting to? Ugh, that's not telling me. I'd rather you just tell me. ID 166 794. Cool. Right, the password 2U BS. How much longer is the build up? Okay. Cool. Cool. No, I've got 1 minute and 20 seconds. Okay, it's cool. So let's go. Man. I know. I've just gone to the second screen now. No. 9 seconds there. Okay. Where are we? F1 comms. Man. Okay, how much longer is this video? 30 seconds. Okay, let's go back to OBS. This is about to end. Yeah, good.
Welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix, home of the Formula 1 night race. Formula 1 leaves Europe behind and starts its final sequence of flyaway races to see out the 2023 season. Starting here in Singapore with one of the most challenging circuits on the calendar. The circuit, set out around Singapore's Marina Bay, is 4.94 kilometers and is made up of 19 corners, which is a reduction of 23 turns from last year's layout due to construction taking place, meaning that the old turns 16, 17, 18 and 19 were taken out and replaced with a straight. This circuit is particularly grueling on the drivers due to the high humidity and ambient temperatures seen around the circuit. During a race around Singapore, drivers can lose up to 3 kilograms in sweat from the heat experienced in the cockpit of their Formula 1 cars. Not only do drivers have the extreme heat to deal with, or the possibilities of monsoon rain, but the circuit around Singapore is set at night, and became the first night race on the Formula 1 calendar in 2008. This makes racing around the Marina Bay even more difficult, as it is said that the circuit is similar to Monaco, with very close walls and little room for error. Watch now as you get taken around a lap of Singapore. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content. And be sure to let us know in the comment section who you are supporting for the Singapore Grand Prix. Yes, sorry, I'm a bit quiet. I'm busy setting some things up on my side. Yes, certainly do be sure to ask us some comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Always great to know where all of you guys are watching out from. Yeah, getting very excited for the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. I think it's going to be a very exciting race weekend as I turn my TV on to get the feed going. Yeah, I think it's going to be really, really exciting this weekend. I love this race. It's actually quite exciting for us, Mark, because it's been a year since we started doing this. Yes, I'm certainly hoping for a good weekend from McLaren. I think that they have the pace. Whether they'll be able to show it this weekend, I think they've also got some upgrades coming for this race weekend. So we'll have to really wait and see what they're able to do. But I think you can't count them out. Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly, Mark. As you say, there is a new layout for this Grand Prix weekend here in Singapore. Very exciting to see this new track layout, but I think it could cause a little bit of havoc for the drivers out here, of course, with new unknowns. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what drivers are able to do. Sorry, setting things up. Yes, and if you watched my race or track, um, what's it called, my track guide right before this got going, you would have seen that, yeah, you can lose up to 3 kgs in body weight throughout a race here, as well as it's just super, super hot around the circuit. I think even in the dark at night, it's very, very hot. I mean, it gets up to, I think, 28 degrees still at night here, Mark, which is insane. Thank goodness, Mark. Yes. Yes, I'm done here. No, I was going to say that, well, it's a very difficult circuit. As you said, it is very akin to the likes of Monaco. Just watching a lap here of Charles Leclerc going around last year, and just how close you have to get to these walls here to extract as much pace around the circuit length. It is just so, so difficult. Gran Canaria, yes, it's an area.
Twenty 2020 and 2021. In 2019 was also Charles Leclerc. 2018, Lewis Hamilton. 2017, Sebastian Vettel. And 2016 was Nico Rosberg. The last five winners, however, have not been those pole sitters, with the exception of Lewis Hamilton in 2018. 2022 was Sergio Perez. 2019 was Sebastian Vettel. 2018, as I said, was Lewis Hamilton. He was the one that did start on pole and finish the Grand Prix as a winner. 2017 was Lewis Hamilton, who also won again then. And 2016 was Nico Rosberg as well, sorry, starting on pole there. So somewhat maybe gives a little bit of advantage starting on pole, but it's not guaranteed at all here that you will finish first if you do finish on pole. However, I think if Max Verstappen finishes on pole, he most likely goes on to win this race.
Yes, well, let's see what Max Verstappen can do in this race. Just watching the interviews from yesterday, the likes of Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, yeah, all looking really ready for this race weekend. Also, just looking at some special liveries and special driver helmets for this race weekend as well. Yeah, I mean, Lando Norris has brought a special race helmet for this weekend. It's black. With different little elements there. It's going to sparkle really nicely under the lights here in Singapore, as well as then his car as well has their new livery for this race weekend.
Yeah, so let's go and see what McLaren can do this weekend. And where do you reckon Lando Norris can finish this weekend, Reese?
Well, I think Lando Norris should be able to have a really good race weekend. I think their car should suit the sorts of circuit. Yeah, I'm really hoping that the McLarens are going to be quite competitive. I'd like to see Oscar Piastri doing quite well. Yeah, let's see what's possible.
Yeah, and we've got the lively library book here in the comments, just letting us know. And Larry also just giving us a little wave there in the comments. So welcome, Larry. Let's keep liking this video, guys. And let's see how many views we can get today. And yeah, we are just about 13 minutes away from the start of FP1.
Yes, getting quite close now to the start of this session. Just watching. I mean, I don't know if you've got the same feed as me, Mark, but one of the Sky Sports presenters has been taken around Singapore in a sidecart. I don't know if that's how I would want to experience Singapore. I'd much prefer to go around in a Formula One car than a sidecart attached to the side of a Vespa.
Yeah, that's exactly that. I'm not sure I'm going around on the side of a Vespa in Singapore here. I'd much rather, as you say, be in a fully throttled engine that's motoring at next level speeds. But you know what? I suppose going around the track is something he's done more than me, so maybe it can't be that bad.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine. Let's see what they're able to do throughout this race. Just waiting for the session to get underway. Still another 12 minutes to get going, or as our timer says, 11 minutes and 35 seconds now. Yeah, just getting ready to go. Who are you looking forward to seeing this race weekend? Yeah, I think that's Max Verstappen is going to be very dominant yet again, as we see him moving out of the Red Bull hospitality suite and going towards the pit lane now. Yeah, I think Alex Albon should also be able to have a really good race weekend. Who else are you looking forward to watching this weekend, Mark?
Well, I'm hoping to see Ferrari do something. We've got the camera right now on. I think that's Charles Leclerc there. I'm hoping to see something from Ferrari this weekend. They didn't have the worst weekend out last time. In Monza, of course, their home Grand Prix, one of their much better performances for the year. Can they finally just get somewhere near the top there in terms of podium positions and maybe get second, third, or try and fight Verstappen for that first place? I don't unfortunately see it happening, but maybe they can. I do think Aston Martin, though, could be quite good this weekend with Fernando Alonso. It is quite a high downforce circuit. Fernando Alonso likes that, and so does Aston Martin. They hit curbs quite well. There's a lot of them in this race weekend, so hopefully Aston Martin should perform half decently here. Lance Stroll, though, really not helping that team in terms of points for that fight for second place in the Constructors Championship. So he really needs to do something this weekend as well.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see what they're able to do, but I think Fernando Alonso really likes the circuit. I'm sure he likes the circuit. I mean, he's done really well here in the past as well. We'll have to wait and see what he's able to pull out, though, throughout the rest of this weekend. It's going to be very exciting, though, I think. Just watching over the upgrades on this McLaren, they've got a high downforce rear wing at the moment with the cutout at the end of those wing end plates. Very expected around the circuit. Red Bull also have a really high downforce rear wing. Just carrying on looking at this, trying to see if I can see any more upgrades. We know, though, that the Alphatauris have massive upgrades for this race weekend here, Mark.
Yeah, the Alphatauri do indeed have big upgrades, so maybe they can try and do something. They've been shocking all year, really. So I'm not sure how much the upgrades are really going to help them, but maybe they can become a little bit more competitive. Maybe fight for a points position.
Yes, hopefully they can fight for some points positions here. We'll have to wait and see though. Watching Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc get ready to get into their cars now. Logan Sargent as well. There's a lot of talk about Logan Sargent. Do you think he'll be able to have a good weekend, Mark?
Uh, I don't know. I'm up in the air about Logan Sargent. I think a good weekend at this point in time for Logan Sargent is finishing the weekend in terms of finishing the race. Quite a few times this season he's not been able to do so. So if he does manage to at least finish the race, maybe that'll be considered a good weekend for him. But really, he should be looking to try and get close to his teammate at least a little bit. The higher part of the lower 10, basically, where he should be aiming 12th, 13th, maybe even that last points position. Williams' car is really not that bad. Alex Albon's shown that. So I'm hoping that Logan Sargent can do something there. Otherwise, I still think he's in danger of getting that axe for next season.
Yes, I think his seat isn't necessarily still given to him as of yet. I mean, it's difficult for him as a rookie in Formula One at the moment because, of course, as we say, there's a lot of eyes on him. There's a lot of people vying for his seat to take it away from him. I think still it's a little bit unfair.
Well, not necessarily unfair. Formula One is, you've said this entire season that Formula One is a very cutthroat sport.
Yeah, I know.
If you're not
but it's
performing at the
difficult to
level
get
you
rid
need
of a
to be-
rookie. It's so difficult to get rid of a rookie.
Is it? I mean, they got rid of De Vries this week, this season after half the season. I mean, there was no issue with that. Nobody really seemed to argue that. I mean, can't really say it's difficult to get rid of a rookie. But the only driver we've really lost this season has been a rookie. So,
Well,
I mean,
you say he's been a rookie, but he's an experienced rookie. He's a Formula E winner. He came with a lot of pedigree. He was supposed to do really well, and that's why he got the axe. I wouldn't call him a rookie compared to Logan Sargent.
well, at the same time, both of them made it into Formula One at the same time. So clearly, they both have enough talent to have made it into that sport at that level. So regardless of your previous victories, you are still a rookie to this sport. And I think Nick De Vries getting the axe with what is supposed to be a lot more pedigree compared to Logan Sargent just speaks to the fact that they really don't care. I think it's more performance based, and they're saying, if you can't perform, get out of the seats. So we've got Michael in the comments there just asking how we are doing, and good morning to Forever Motorsports. Great to have you here. Rajesh is also here in the comments, just saying Lawson on point this weekend will be soothed to watch. Quite understanding, unfortunately. But yeah, let's see. And Michael also saying, let's go Lewis for this weekend. So, I mean, Reese, who do you reckon will compete with Max Verstappen the most in this, at least the first session today?
Well, I think the first session is going to be differentiating in terms of results, because I think we might see the likes of the McLarens maybe having some great pace this session. Maybe the Aston Martins also could have some good pace. I think the Mercedes might also do quite well at this circuit. They are quietly optimistic for this race weekend. They're hoping that the car should perform how it did in Zandvoort. They performed quite well in Zandvoort, despite the fact that they got all the strategies wrong. But we'll see what they're able to do this weekend. It's so difficult to predict ahead of this first session. At least after the session, we can have a little bit more of an indicator. But going blind into the session, it's so difficult knowing, Mark.
Yeah. Tinu here in the comments asking, will Daniel race this weekend? No, he will not. He's still recovering from his surgery on his hand, of which looked quite bad when we looked at some pictures of it, with lots and lots and lots of stitches
terrible, yes.
in his wrist. So Daniel Ricciardo will not be racing this weekend, and likely not racing next weekend either. I think the first race weekend, they reckon he might be able to come back as Japan, Reese, if I'm correct. Not Japan, it's after Japan, I mean. Correct?
It's possible, yes. I think they're thinking either Japan or Qatar. It's unlikely for Japan, so more likely Qatar at this point.
Yeah, just looking here at some images of that very, very famous building in Singapore with the pool on top, and it's quite full of lots and lots of tourists right now who are bathing away at the top there of the Singapore. I can't remember what it's called, Reese. What is it called? Do you know?
That hotel, I don't know what it's called.
Well, anyway,
but it's a very iconic hotel there in Singapore, of course.
Yeah, so they're all in the pool. They're all ready for this race weekend, as are we. And Abdi here is saying, greetings from Somaliland, Lewis to win this weekend. Well, that's quite a brave shout. Let's see if it does actually happen. Just going through the Formula One titles now. So we are right near the beginning here of practice.
Practice
So,
one,
hopefully
yes.
get going.
Yes, very excited to get going here. 4 minutes and 13 seconds left. As we said, though, this is a bit of a nostalgic race for us because it's our 1 year anniversary on Forever Motorsports here. Doing Formula 1 live watch-alongs with you guys for a year now. Very, very happy to have been able to do this all with you. And yeah.
Cool. We are very, very close to getting going here. And let us know in the comments, guys, who are you backing for this weekend? Rajesh is saying here, wishes to Daniel Ricciardo for a speedy recovery. Indeed, exactly that. Be sure to go participate in the poll. Like this video, please hit that like button right now as you guys are here joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. And maybe go and check out our other partner channels, of course. And maybe consider becoming a member of the channel. Get lots of very, very cool benefits. You guys can race with us in the F1 game, of course. That's one of the benefits of joining the membership program. And then you guys can join in our racing streams that we do every time before a race weekend. So be sure to look at that. Track distance here is 4.94 kilometers. Full throttle spent at 40.25%. Reese, top speed is 315 kilometers. Turns 19 in the elevation, only 5.3 meters.
Yes, looking at our tyre compounds for this race weekend, we have the softest of the Pirelli range here this weekend, C5, C4, and C3. The range, of course, goes from C5 to C0. We expect the degradation to be a little bit less around the circuit. We'll have to wait and see, though, what does happen throughout all of these sessions. It is currently 32 degrees Celsius around the track. The track temperature, though, is 45 degrees Celsius with a humidity of 61%. So extremely humid out there at the moment.
Yeah, it's very, very humid here in Singapore. The sun is out. The sun is blazing. Of course, the race is only actually at night. It is a night race, so this won't be the same on Sunday. But for now, we are in the day for practice here, looking at the beautiful city that is Singapore.
Yes, very excited to get underway here for the session. Now only 3 minutes left to go, or 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Just watching some overhead shots of this track. Absolutely stunning. Of course, it is during the daytime right now, but the race on Sunday will be during the night. Under the lights here in Singapore. This is the inaugural Formula 1 night race here. That was held in 2008. It came with a lot of scandal, of course, with that Crashgate incident happening. And there is a lot of lawsuits going on at the moment over that 2008 World Championship title, with Felipe Massa wanting to sue Formula 1 and the FIA over that mishap being hidden and kind of covered up by the old Formula 1 bosses at the time. Felipe Massa wants to get Lewis Hamilton involved in that court case. Highly unlikely Lewis Hamilton will ever get involved because, of course, that would overturn his own Formula 1 title. But we'll wait and see what happens with that. Not long left to get going now, Mark, until the session gets the green light.
No, not long to wait at all. We see Max Verstappen getting absolutely blasted with some cool air there in his Red Bull. It's so hot here and humid in Singapore. It always is. Constructors Championship currently sees Red Bull more than double the number of points of the next placed, which is Mercedes. They've got 583 points, this Red Bull, versus Mercedes 273. Ferrari's got 228, Aston Martin 217. So the battle for second is really heating up and it's really, really close. So it's great to see that happening this season. It's just Red Bull running away with it that people need to, I think, just forget about, essentially.
Yes, I think you kind of have to overlook the fact that Red Bull have been starting to run away with the season, or not starting to run away with the season. They have run away with the season. Yeah, I think you have to kind of ignore that for a little bit, and in order to still enjoy the rest of the season, which I think is going to be very exciting still.
Oh, it's exactly that. And I think the battle for second is really heating up, both in the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. Looking at Fernando Alonso, who's, of course, vying for that second place in the Drivers' Constructors, or at least even third. He's got lots of podiums this season. He's doing really, really well. The oldest driver we've, I think, ever had in Formula 1.
Yes, he is officially the oldest driver in Formula 1, as well as the most successful driver in Formula 1 at the moment.
Well, by number
not
of points,
successful, as in the most race starts, I mean.
Most race
I
starts.
apologize. I'm also trying to get some things working on my side here.
All good, all good. So, yeah, Fernando Alonso is the most race starts. Is also the oldest driver on the grid and oldest driver we've ever had on the grid. His teammate, though, Lance Stroll, seems to be leading everybody out as we get practice going here. The green light has been shown and practice one for Singapore is underway.
Finally, we are out and running out here in Singapore. Our timing board is hopefully going to come live very shortly for you guys. We'll keep monitoring though Just continuing to look at what's happening in the comment section, do be sure to drop us a comment and yeah, let us know where you are following from. We do have a bunch of drivers, of course, out on track at the moment. Stroll, Bottas, Lawson, Alonso, Zhou, Russell, Ocon, and Lando Norris as well. Just watching now as well, Charles Leclerc leaving the pits for his first runs. Just looking at some extra circuit information here, with 19 turns, the full throttle is going to be around 64% at this circuit, with a top speed of around 316 kilometers an hour, 196 miles an hour, with the downforce being at the circuit, it says medium, but I expect it to be more high, and degradation expected as well to be low. Charles Leclerc now on his warm-up lap. Let's see what he'll be able to do on his first set of timing laps. We're also just watching Magnussen and Gasly leaving the pits now as well. We also have Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Perez, a bunch of drivers now all making their way out onto track. Fred Vasseur just sitting on the wall there. Not much happening in terms of his current drivers fighting for the championship right now. They've really fallen back quite a lot. Hopefully they will be able to challenge come the next few races and come next season, because we really don't want to see them fighting for fourth position in the Constructors Championship. We want them to do a lot better. It's been ridiculous as to the fact that they just have not been able to challenge all that much this season at all. As we do now have our live timing board back up and running. Thank you very much for your help there, Mark. Stroll currently with the fastest, or the first lap being put down on the timing board right now. Bottas, though, with the fastest first sector. That's been taken away from him, though, by George Russell.
Oh. Just getting some movement.
There we go.
Here.
You can leave it there now, Mark. It's happening. Yeah, just carrying on watching, though, out on track. We have Fernando Alonso currently putting in a hot lap. Let's see what he will be able to do on his current run. Yeah, lots and lots of drivers currently out on hot laps who will be able to be fastest, though, out there on circuit. Do be sure to keep letting us know down in the comment section who you are supporting. We have pretty much every driver except for the Williams drivers out on track.
Yeah, just reading here, the comments here. The new layout will be good, says Tamina. Yeah, I think it will be very good, and I think people will very much enjoy what it does provide to us, because I think it should hopefully result in more overtakes. We did see last season, it's one of the really, really low overtake tracks, and so hopefully we will see more overtakes happen, and that will be great for everybody.
Yes, certainly we want to see lots of overtakes. We want to see everyone being able to fight throughout the entire race on Sunday as well. We'll have to wait though and see if the addition of that new straight helps maybe with some extra overtaking here, Mark.
Yeah, I think it will hopefully help with the overtakes, having those DOA zones. They are quite short though. That's the only problem with them. So you have to try and follow really, really closely to make use of that.
Yes, you do have to follow quite closely, but that's quite common with these generation of Formula One cars. You often have to get as close as possible to be able to make that overtake work. And if you can't make the overtake work, then yeah, you unfortunately have to keep going for quite some time.
Yeah, Andrew here in the comments saying the chicane they removed is horrible. I always crash there on the game. Correct, and I can verify this for you in our gaming stream that we did this week. Yeah, all three of us that were racing, people-wise anyway,
we didn't do very well.
A big issue with that chicane. So luckily it's gone, but it's not gone obviously in our game, and luckily it's now gone in real life. And as you say, I think that's going to hopefully provide some more overtaking opportunities. Watching Lando Norris here catch a lot of the curb and really have a bit of an issue there with his car, just trying to get grip with the car. I'm really struggling there, and really did rather ruin his front right tire with that little piece of driving there. Now looking at this beautiful livery here, I think this is of Whose livery is this? It's the Williams, I think it is.
Yes, it's the Williams. They've got their new Golf livery for this race weekend. Really excited to see that livery. It's always so pretty. We've seen it on the McLaren in the past, and it looks so beautiful on that Williams. They've got new race suits as well to match this race weekend. I think they're running that this weekend as well as in Japan. So great to see that livery back on a Formula One car. It's so iconic, Mark.
It's a beautiful, beautiful livery, and that's why I was just taking note of. I was like just looking at it, I was lost for words, just going, oh, look at that car there. And Alex Albon, of course, is going around. So currently we've got 54 minutes left of the session. Lando Norris is in first on the medium tyre, Gasly in second. 137s have been put in so far. Max Verstappen a 138 on the hard tyre. Charles Leclerc right behind him also with a 138. Alex Albon now starts his first hot lap of the day on a set of medium tyres. So let's see how that's Williams does fare today.
Yes, let's see how the Williams does fare out here today. We'll have to wait and see what they're able to do. I mean, they've been having a really good season. Jogwan, you're saying something smells a little bit smoky, but I don't know. Maybe they're running the car a little bit too low, and it's just possibly bound or bottoming out a little bit. Yeah, don't know what's going to happen there. Yeah, Alex Albon making his way around the track now, coming through the middle sector, through turn 10 and 11. Very, very tricky sector there, through that left and right hand. And now he comes through the bridge section before the very tricky hairpin. Mark's absolute favourite place on the circuit in the Formula One game, because we all get that corner absolutely perfect, don't we, Mark?
Yes. No. Well, to be fair, I got it perfect, and then I was just driven into the wall there. And my race was over, which was very upsetting. It was sabotage. I tell you, the FIA were nowhere as per usual in terms of giving out the appropriate penalties for causing that incident. But anyway, it's fine. Looking here at Alex Albon, who's of course going around here, he's done all right so far. Let's see what sort of time he can put in as a result in that new liveried Williams. And of course, as I think it's Andrew went and made and alluded to, is also that beautiful new livery of McLaren. My only disappointment with that is the fact they still have these very bright chrome wheels, which are very cool otherwise, but I think for this weekend would have been very cool if they were blacked out, or otherwise had the white and black chrome logo. But you know, that McLaren livery still looks very, very cool, Reese, that as Andrew calls it, the ninja stealth mode.
Yes, it does look very cool. I'm sure it's going to be a lot lighter as well for them this weekend, because I mean, it does have a lot less paint on it.
Yeah, lots less paint. I mean, when we say a lot lighter, it'll only lose maybe, you know, every little gram counts, but it won't lose too much, obviously. But I'm not sure it's going to make too much of a difference in terms of their performance. We're looking here at Lance Stroll, who did go out straight away, and they're making lots of adjustments on his car and working on his car. So clearly, not all is well in that Aston Martin garage for Lance Stroll. Verstappen on the radio just saying quite aggressive downshifts, and I struggle in the mid to exit all the time. A lot of oversteer in every corner, basically.
Yes, they are experiencing quite a lot of oversteer there. Possibly they're just trying to get the car a little bit faster than their competitors. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they're doing. It's possible they're just running a little bit less downforce, trying to get a little bit faster down the straights, and that's why they're experiencing a little bit more oversteer. But of course, it's still very early on in the session, and drivers still have a lot of time to make setup changes to their cars.
Indeed, and as we talk about that, Lando Norris has now gone quickest with a 135.78. So he's right at the top. They're moving to the 135s. So we're going to see that time get smaller and smaller and smaller. Just noting how much quicker the circuit is as a result. The quickest times previously were 141s, 142s were like the best qualifying times you'd have here in Singapore. We've already seen that 6 seconds have been shaved off on medium and hard tires and just practice runs right now. So a much shorter circuit in terms of time taken. I reckon if we have to estimate the qualifying times that we'll see, it's probably a whole 10 seconds, maybe. I reckon we'll see 131s. So basically a whole 10 seconds quicker than the old circuit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fast. I mean, as you say, they're doing 139 is what Lawson's just put in. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really fast amount of lap times that they're going to be able to put in around the circuit. 135.7 is the fastest time from Lando Norris on the mediums. Interesting to see. No one has ventured out on a set of softs yet, Mark.
No, nobody's ventured out on a set of softs, and I think that's also because it is very, very hot right now. So I think they'll wait for the weather to cool down a little bit more before they do try out those softs. A few more people in the comments. Great to have it here. F123 is just saying, want to play F123 tomorrow. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. The Heart of Real Dancers, a hell of a name there, saying, "Hi, Mark, you've been missed." Well, I've missed you. Not that I can't recall seeing your comments before, but otherwise, well, thank you very much. I think maybe I actually have, having said that.
Yes, I do remember that
yes, I have.
username.
I have, yes.
As we see now, I think this is Lewis Hamilton making his way around to start a hot lap here. Let me see, is this... No, it's George Russell. George Russell now starting a hot lap on a set of hard tyres. They just go really deep, though, into turn 2. Still within track limits, but really using as much of the track as possible to get as much time as possible on a lap. Making his way now through turn 5. DRS wide open as he comes down that back straight. Let's see what he's able to do in terms of his sector time. Set a Foster's first sector there, Mark. What will he do through the middle sector, though?
Probably not be as quick as the rest of the field. I think George Russell struggled a little bit more with this car. He did all right last weekend, though.
He set the first Foster sector, though.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be as quick in the rest of the sectors. Yeah, we'll have to follow. He's on the hard tyre, of course, as well, which means I do think he'll lose a little bit of time compared to that Norris medium lap time. But, maybe he'll get close to his teammate Lewis Hamilton, perhaps beat it, get near the top there. But again, I don't take these early times too seriously until we do see about 20 minutes left to go in the session. That's when you start to understand which cars are really putting in the proper times.
Yes, well, that's true. We'll wait and see what happens throughout the rest of the session. I think, as you say, everyone is pretty much just doing some race simulations right now, especially with all of those hard tyre runners. I mean, I guess as well with those medium tyres, you're also going to be doing some race simulations, but it's a little bit wasted doing race sims in the heat here because it's not going to be this hot on Sunday evening. You're going to be running under lights. So, I mean, it's always good to be getting some data out here, but it's going to be very different on Sunday.
Yeah, and as I said, Russell has lost time in that second sector to Norris, so it's not going to be as quick, I don't think. He will be probably finishing near the top, but not quite there in 8th position. So as I say, I wasn't expecting too much. Their sights has now set a purple sector in sector 2. So let's see how the Ferraris are doing. All right. McLaren still out in first with Lando Norris here. 47 minutes left. But also just going back to your comments there, Reese, it's very true. I'm not quite sure how much data you can really get from this first practice session and, of course, tomorrow's practice session 3, because it's going to be much cooler when they do actually race, because it's going to be under the lights. And yeah, this is not going to be quite as accurate as
Charles Leclerc, though, Mark. Sorry to interrupt you. Charles Leclerc absolutely setting the timing boards alight right now out there. He's really going out there on track, setting some really fast middle sectors. Let's see what he can do coming across the final turn now, turn 19. Across the line, he goes happily in first with 135.6, just ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz, 0.035 ahead right now.
Yeah, right next to Carlos Sainz's time there. And, of course, Norris now moves into 3rd position. So, yeah, just looking here. I've got 46 minutes left of the session.
Yeah, still quite a bit of time left of this Formula 1 session. As we see, I think this is Sergio Perez just cutting the chicane there into turn 1 and 2. Maybe just getting a little lock up on his wheels there, but back out on track and continuing on. Just watching Christian Horner, he's going to be having a lot to answer for this race weekend, of course, with a lot of backlash over Helmut Marko's comments over this past few weeks.
Well, it's going to be a difficult one for him to answer because, of course, he's not the one with the comments. So, I mean, he's going to be put under the cosh, I think, wrongfully, because it's not his fault that Helmut Marko is a bit of an idiot. And, yeah, so he can't really do much other than just go about his job. So I'm hoping that he'll just try and not necessarily elude the question. I know that he'll come out and say that he's very much fully supportive of Sergio Perez, as he always has said. And he will probably likely say that he does not agree with the comments, and the comments not a fair reflection of the team either. But it's a difficult one that Red Bull have got, right at the top of the management there. Somebody who said such comments and has since apologized, but took way too long, in my opinion. And also, I mean, it's very easy to apologize for a comment. It's not so easy to go and say it. So yeah, it's an interesting dilemma there that they have in Red Bull, but not Christian Horner's fault. So he'll just get on with the race weekend, of course. F123 just saying, do you think Oscar will have as much pace in the car compared to Lando? Reese?
Yes, I do. I think Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are a great driver pairing at the moment. They are very equally matched. Of course, Oscar Piastri being a rookie, but I think he has so much pace and talent to show for the future. We've seen those glimpses of his raw pace. We saw it in Belgium and Spa, how he was able to get on in second position in qualifying there. Unfortunate though, of course, in the race. Yeah, he's done really well this season in his rookie season, and I've been really impressed with him so far. And I want to see him doing well yet again.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Rajesh also just saying...
I was going to mention that,
yeah.
yes.
In cricket, India is playing against Bangladesh. As an Indian and a cricketer, I suppose I should be watching the cricket. But why am I hanging around in the street? Because #love, #cool hosts, and #my favorite F1 track. Well, great to appreciate... Oh, you've deleted the message now. Boring.
Too late. We've read it already.
We've read it already. So thank you very much, though, nonetheless, for saying cool host. Very much appreciated. F123 saying the times are really tight. Oh, quite tight so far. We'll see, however...
I wonder if that's due to that final chicane, just really allowing cars to get a bit of a closer advantage to each other. Just watching now Lewis Hamilton making his way down the back straight. I keep saying Lewis Hamilton, it's George Russell yet again. Carlos Sainz, though, ever so slightly up in the middle sector. Not a personal best, though, in that middle sector for himself. As George Russell now comes across the line, he goes into 5th behind Max Verstappen. Very, very close between those top 4 right now. Lewis Hamilton goes fastest, though, Mark. Hamilton goes fastest with a 135.5. 0.1 up on Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz now makes his way through that final 2 corners, turn 19. Now he comes across the line and only goes in 2nd. Very, very well matched between the top 5 right now.
Yeah,
Andrew Crozier, sorry.
See how close everybody's getting. Sorry.
Yes, Andrew Crozier there saying, if I was Helmut Marko, I would sit out the Mexican Grand Prix. I think he may have to.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be very much welcomed by the Mexican audience there. At all, so I'm sure he will likely not make his face be known to all of those there in Mexico. But just watching a replay of Alex Albon just missing the wall as he tries to overtake someone as he goes around his fast lap attempt there. So I do think we will probably see somebody in the wall multiple times during this race weekend, and Alex Albon very, very close to being the very first one.
Yes, let's watch now what Stroll can do. He starts a hot lap. I'm not expecting very much. Lewis Hamilton still at the top of the timing boards. Lando Norris setting some purple sectors at the moment in the middle sector. We'll have to wait and see what Lando Norris can do currently in P4, but he is on a set of medium tyres, so you would expect him to get a lot higher up than the current top runners right now.
Stroll now starting a hot lap. He's back out of the pits. He's not yet set a time, so he is now back out of the pits. Let's see how he fares on a set of hard tires.
Just watching Stroll fighting with his car a little bit, you just see how bumpy this track is. It is a street circuit. You don't expect it to be absolutely perfect, like some of those perfectly graded circuits like Belgium, Monza, Imola, those type of circuits. Lando Norris now goes fastest overall, 0.7 up on Hamilton's time right now. That is a huge gap on those medium tyres. Lance Stroll, though, making his way through Mark's favourite hairpin, turn 13. Still fighting with that steering wheel a little bit. It's not very neat and tidy inputs being put in that steering wheel. He does have to make quite a lot of corrections. He is getting caught, though, by quite a lot of traffic right now. Will he be able to be unscathed? Sergio Perez now goes 2nd overall with a 135.3.
Yeah, and the heart of Real Dance is just asking again, saying, what is the update on Ricciardo? It's so sad. Well, he is on the pit wall. He's on the Alphatauri pit wall there as part of the team. So he's watching. He's here in Singapore. All smiles and otherwise. But yeah, we won't see him for the next couple of race weekends at least. Probably later in October, you'll probably see Daniel Ricciardo back in that F1 seat. But Liam Lawson, though, is filling that gap quite well. He currently sits in 17th. But he's been performing very well for that Alphatauri team, Reece.
Yes, he has been performing really well for that Alphatauri team. I assume we're talking about Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson, I think his performances have been putting him in contention of possibly stealing that seat away from Yuki Tsunoda.
Well, I definitely think that's a possibility. Everyone knows that Yuki Tsunoda is likely going to be moving wherever Honda moves. So wherever Honda should happen to go, we'll probably see Yuki Tsunoda follow suit. Or maybe he drops out of Formula 1. I do always think that I expect more from Tsunoda than what he does manage to put in, but I don't think he's going to be leaving the sport anytime soon.
No, I don't think he's going to be leaving the sport anytime soon, as you say. Tsunoda, though, currently coming through the middle sector, moving through turn 13, that hairpin after the bridge section. Very, very difficult section, that bridge sector. We've seen in the past drivers losing it in that bridge part, and if you beach it there or not beach it, if you spin there and you end up in the wall, that causes an instant red flag, Mark, because you have to get the crane in to remove the car. The car pretty much blocks the entire road. It's very tricky around the circuit. It is so tight in certain sectors.
It is very tight around certain sectors as well. And I do think we will, as I said, see somebody in the wall. Tsunoda now, just following him on here. Reese, what sort of time has he put in here? I'm just trying to see.
He comes across the line now and he puts in a 135.7, putting him up into 7th place behind Max Verstappen. 0.001 behind Max Verstappen's time as of now.
And on the hard tire, which is not too bad because Hamilton's currently the fastest on the hard tire in 3rd position, I think it is. No, actually, Perez in 2nd, who's 0.5 seconds behind Lando Norris. So 135.2, that would be, or 0.3, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think we'll see 131s essentially for qualifying tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting because I think, as we've also noted, the amount of traffic that we do find this track, I think people are going to really struggle with qualifying, and I think we'll probably have lots of infringements as well during qualifying, where people probably get penalties and otherwise for stopping other people's qualifying attempts.
Yes, I think that's going to be a big issue in qualifying, as you say, Mark, because it is so difficult to get a clean lap in around here with traffic. I mean, the traffic, they impede each other so often around here. We saw in Monza how difficult it was to get a clean lap in qualifying. And then when you start to get a bit of clean air, someone else comes up from behind you and steals it away. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in qualifying. I think it's going to be a bit messy, but always provides some great action for us.
That's exactly that. So just looking at the timings right now, we've got, as I say, Hamilton now in 1st position at 135.57. Great from him. So the Mercedes clearly finding a little bit of pace here. We've currently got Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, then and McLaren, and only then do we have Max Verstappen, who sits in 5th. So obviously, he's going round on hards. This only practice 1, but good to see some pace from the other teams.
Yes, great to see some pace from the other teams out there at the moment. I'm very excited to see who is going to have the upper hand for this race weekend. So far, it's looking like Mercedes. It could be someone else. Who knows, Mark? It is very, very exciting for all of us this race weekend.
Yeah. So Lando Norris with a 134.7 on mediums. He's the only one that's really set mediums in the top 10, with the exception of Ocon and Gasly right at the end, then 9th and 10th. So mediums obviously quicker than the hards, which is good to see because we didn't quite see that out. I think it was it in Monza or was it in Zandvoort that we saw the fact that the hards were actually quicker than the mediums half the time?
It was in Monza that we saw it, Mark. It was last race out in Monza. Very interesting to see that, and it looks like we may get a repeat of that this weekend.
Yeah, and we've just seen Ocon now in those mediums has crossed 3rd position. He's gone a lot quicker then. And so is Russell now moving into 2nd on those hards at 135.00. So great to see Mercedes finding some good pace here. And we've got 36 minutes left of this practice session. Be sure to go and smash that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. And maybe if you guys are looking for a way to watch, be sure to go and check out the description. You can go and see how you can watch Formula One using our partners. And be sure to go check out our partners as well, Bitdefender and BoyleSports. We're almost up to 200 people watching. Let's like the video.
Great question here. A great question here from Rajesh, Mark, saying street track and Formula One dedicated circuit. Which is more challenging? So I assume, which is more challenging between a street circuit and a traditional Formula One circuit? I'm going to say a street circuit.
No, by a country mile.
Yes, of course. You've got way less margins.
Much
way less margins than you've got in a traditional Formula One circuit. Those have runoff zones. You've got gravel traps. You've got grassy sections. At a street circuit, what have you got? You've got a wall right next to the curbs. That means you cannot make any mistakes. That means your margin for error is pretty much zero, especially around a circuit like this. And that's what we want to see. We want to see these drivers' limits being absolutely pushed here. And it's always absolutely phenomenal out in Singapore. 35 minutes left of this session. Been quite exciting so far to see that a lot of drivers are very competitive out on their differing tires. Currently, we've got a bunch of drivers having put in times on hard tires. I see, though, unfortunately, our timer does not show all of those different compounds for all of the drivers. It has it for a few of them that are currently out on track, but the majority are all coming into the pits at the moment. We've got Gasly and Stroll, as well as Alonso, still out on track. Gasly has come out now, notably, Mark, on a set of softs. So finally, some drivers moving out on the softs.
So let's go and see what happens with the soft tires as we do see only about 4 drivers out on track at the moment. So very, very much halfway through the session, and everybody's done their first simulations. And as you say, we're starting the next few simulations with that soft tire run now coming out here.
Yes, just waiting as well for the Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas to get out. We're looking at Liam Lawson as well, looking ready to get out on track. Yeah, very, very exciting here. I mean, been a great little session so far. I always love coming back to Singapore. It's one of my favorite circuits on the Formula One calendar. I think someone else said it's their favorite circuit. I think it may have been Rajesh. Yeah, it's certainly one of my favorite circuits as well. Always very exciting to be out and light here in Singapore.
Hayden here in the comments just saying, hey guys, I bet Ferrari is going to win practice 1. Well, it's a bit of a brave shot. And I think if a Ferrari driver does happen to top practice 1, it's probably not going to be Charles Leclerc. It'll most likely be Carlos Sainz, I think, Reese.
Well, I mean, Leclerc's currently the top Ferrari at the moment, so I don't think you can count him out there, Mark. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Charles Leclerc. I do see, though, very exciting that we have now hit over 1,500 subs on this channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do be sure to go and hit that subscribe button. We have moved over from our main channel, the Forever Sports channel, to have our dedicated Formula 1 channel here on Forever Motorsports, where I upload multiple videos throughout the week. I do a daily news video at 10 o'clock every morning, South African time, that is, and then I upload clips of that throughout the day, as well as I upload breaking news for you guys, such as the breaking news that Zhou Guanyu is signed yet again for 2024 with Alfa Romeo.
No, I'm joking, Shame. I don't hate the guy. I think Joe's a great driver, but I was just hoping that we'd maybe see Mick come back in that seat. That's one of the possible seats that he could have come back into. Well, not really. At the same time, maybe, but it was definitely one of those possibilities. We could have found Mick a seat. But 32 minutes left of the session, and yes, Guan Yu Zhou has signed a new contract with Alfa Romeo, so he will be there next season in that seat. So Alfa Romeo seems sorted for next season. Can they sort out their car though? That's the next question.
That is a very good question, as Alonso has now made his way up into 10th position. We expect him maybe to get a little bit higher than that. I'm hoping their car has a bit more pace than just 10th here this weekend.
Yeah, I'm really hoping Fernando Alonso can improve upon those times, and I think they're just sorting out some things. We also do often see Aston Martin quite slow in the first and second practice session. Only the third and qualifying do we see them speed up usually, so not too stressed yet. And I think a better indicator, seeing Stroll is ahead of Albon, which does mean that Aston Martin probably has pace, because if Stroll managed to get ahead of Albon, definitely means that something's helping him get ahead of him. That's not his own driving skill. Yeah, let's see what happens here. Gasly crosses the line on those softs, moves into second to 134.98.
Interesting. Very interesting that he's still not able to get ahead of Norris on a set of mediums.
The McLaren car is just better than the Alpine.
Well, I mean, that's a given, but you would expect the softs to still be ahead of the mediums.
Yeah, it's true. Pureblood's in the comments here saying Zhou deserves it, I think. Well, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I do think he's quite a good driver. I was just maybe hoping for a bit more of change. I like change in Formula 1, but good to see Zhou does stay here in that Alfa Romeo team. And Lottia saying Singapore manages to get me on the edge of my seat for the full race. Indeed it is. And I will just warn you right now, I might disappear for a little bit, as South Africa has this wonderful problem where we have load shedding, where power gets taken away. So in a little bit, my power will disappear, but I'll be here until that happens.
And don't you worry, I will stay here because I do not get load shedding on my side. So I will be with you guys throughout the remainder of the session. 30 minutes exactly remaining of the session. Now, it has been quite interesting so far. Still waiting to see those other drivers come out on a set of softs. We currently have a couple drivers, I think, leaving the pits. Just following on, let me get back up there. Yeah, we do have a couple of drivers now out on track. We've got Tsunoda, Bottas, Zhou, Piastri, and Magnussen, as well as Lance Stroll out on track.
Yes, with just half an hour left of this first practice session here in Singapore. Again, be sure to subscribe and like the video, guys. So, yeah, also let us know in the comments, who are you backing to compete with Max Verstappen right at the top there?
That is very interesting.
What's that?
I'm seeing a very interesting little gurney wing on the back of the Aston Martin.
Hey?
I don't know if you're getting the same feed as me, Mark, but just below where they
wait.
Just below where their light is flashing by the rear wing, it's pretty much the rear impact structure of the car where it has a little rain light on it. It's got a little wing on it just to improve aerodynamic efficiency. Very, very interesting to see these little upgrades on the Aston Martin. Brilliant. Maybe it might improve efficiency for that car. Well, yeah. I'll have to try and get a picture of it for you because it's a very, very interesting little development there from the Aston Martin team. Whether it improves their car dramatically, I don't know.
And now I'm seeing that soft tires are coming out for both McLaren drivers, and Lando Norris has got lots of green high-vis paint on his car for the
lots of soft tires coming out onto the circuit now, Mark. We've got Sargent, Magnussen, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Lawson, Tsunoda, Sainz, Perez, and Leclerc all out on soft tires right now.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see the times that we can probably put in. Only 134 so far with the Norris at a 134.7. Let's see how quick these times can be. Magnussen's up in fourth right now, V's. 135.006. So not too bad from the Haas driver there. Ahead of a Ferrari of Leclerc, who's also on softs.
Yes, very, very interesting to see that. Oscar Piastri's also on a flyer right now. Lots of dust as he comes through that final sector. Only down in 11th, though. Very interesting to see the difference.
From Oscar Piastri, unfortunately. So
I think it may be his first time out in Singapore, though, so he's still trying to learn the circuit here, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, simulations can only do so much. Being out on the track, that's when you realize that crashing into a wall is quite bad.
Yes, precisely. Just watching Oscar Piastri, maybe he makes a bit of a mistake here. That's why he's so far back, because he did go very wide there into that final corner. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see maybe for some more analysis. Yellow flag in Sector 2, Mark. Yellow flag in Sector 2.
Flag.
Who is that for?
Gone to run off onto a wall. Let's see.
I don't see anyone slow out on track.
Haven't seen it yet. Still yellow, though.
It is still yellow in Sector 2, but I don't see anyone stopped. It's possibly Lawson?
Or Perez.
No, Perez is going fine on my tracker here. Lawson. I think it's Lawson. Still haven't been shown on the feed what that issue is.
I think he's just got I think he might just have an engine issue. We're just going to go and see what's happening right now. He seems to keep going. No, maybe it's just yellow flag because he's going slowly, but...
Still seeing that this yellow flag is being waved. We do not know the reason for that currently. Very interesting. Maybe just some... Oh, there's a lizard out on track. There's a lizard out on track. That's why. Godzilla has ventured out onto the Singapore Grand Prix circuit yet again. Max Verstappen had experienced him in the past. We have just lost Mark. Unfortunately, he'll be back in a few minutes. He's just had load shedding on his side. Yeah, Max Verstappen says, there's a lizard again on track. A smaller one this time. Being told by GP, understood, maybe Godzilla had a kid. He says, I mean, it makes sense. Last time out, I think it was in 2018, Max Verstappen first met Godzilla, and now he's met Godzilla's child out on track now in FP1. So that yellow flag is currently being shown for a Legovan currently out on track at the moment. That should get cleared quite shortly, but very interesting to see that Max Verstappen has met Godzilla twice out in Singapore. I'm sure all of you guys in the comment section are going to be laughing quite a lot at that moment here. Yeah, very, very interesting to see. Like a hike saying, listening from the Netherlands, glad to be back again. Thank you very much for joining us in this FP1 session. We do have the green flag waved yet again for the session as Godzilla has now left the track here in Singapore. Just watching a moment from Carlos Sainz running the first chicane, maybe just having a little bit of a lockup there. Pooja just saying the lizard has jinxed it because he said, okay, so he is not winning this one too. Yes, the lizard has jinxed it maybe a little bit here. Still waiting for Mark to join us yet again. We will have him joining quite shortly here for you guys. He is just waiting to get back in this studio. Carlos Sainz currently out on track. What is he going to be able to do on this set of softs in this session? DRS wide open as he comes down the first DRS straight through turn 6 and 7. Very, very difficult sector of the track. 0.2 up at the moment on Lando Norris's fastest time in 1:34.7. What will Carlos Sainz be able to do out here now today? For all of those just joining, thank you very much for joining Forever Motorsports. I'm joined by Mark. Normally, he is just experiencing some load shedding on his side here in South Africa. Great. We love load shedding. For all of those who don't know what load shedding is, we get power cuts throughout the day, unfortunately, due to insufficient capabilities of our power reserves here in South Africa. So Mark is just having some load shedding. We're just waiting for him to join our feed once again. Carlos Sainz, though, absolutely blazing it out on circuit, setting the fastest middle sector as well. But who is out there as well? Lando Norris and George Russell currently putting in some good times. George Russell takes the fastest lap time out there at the moment with a 1:34.0. Carlos Sainz, though, steals that away from him with a 1:33.944. Can't discount Lando Norris, though, who is out on track, setting some really good sectors at the moment as well. Hamilton also puts in a fast lap time. He goes third overall right now. 23 minutes left of this session. Who can set that fastest lap time before the end of the session? Hamilton, as I said, moves himself up into third on those soft tyres ahead of Lando Norris. Norris now coming through that final sector. Fastest first and second sectors right now under his name. What will he be able to do in this final sector? A lot of high Flover's paint on his car. Lots of upgrades possibly for this race weekend. He does now come across the line and sets that fastest lap time overall with the 1:33.5, half a second faster than anybody else out there on track. 0.4, seconds faster than anybody else there on track, should I say. The sun is starting to set now in Singapore, ramping up for the second sector out. Just going to set up Mark here on my side, and then we will bring him in back into the studio. Just getting him here now. Let me bring him in for you guys. Should take 2 seconds, and then we'll have Mark with us yet again here in the Singapore Grand Prix Practice 1. Mark, you're back with me.
Hi. I'm hoping you can hear me. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mark.
Um,
You're back on stream with
Perfect.
us. Just
Yes,
watching
no,
Max Verstappen starting an out lap here, waiting to start his first hot lap on a set of softs, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting indicator exactly of how quick the Red Bulls are this weekend. And I've just very, very kindly been handed lunch, and I think it is lunchtime for anybody watching the stream. Go and watch and get some lunch.
And I be
be
handed
sure to
lunch.
watch along with us. Just going back to it, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how quick the Red Bulls are. I mean, Lando Norris, of course, right at the top there. I think those are the softs, right?
So Lando Norris is on a set of softs, Carlos Sainz on softs, Russell softs, Hamilton softs, and Gasly as well on softs. So currently all of those times set on a set of softs there, Mark. Very, very interesting lap times being put down, as Max Verstappen is currently on a hot lap, 0.1 down in the first sector.
0.1 down already. It's very, very interesting. So, yeah, we don't currently... Could this go away? So I'm just having some more small issues just trying to get my feed working after that slight blips in connectivity. But I am joining very, very quickly. Leclerc, I see, has gone quickest.
Yes, Leclerc has now gone fastest overall. Brilliant to see out on track. Very, very exciting. I mean, it just keeps getting more and more exciting as the day goes on.
just still trying to sort out my stream here. But everybody watching, please be sure to let us know in the comments. How is it that all these teams are so close together? Really, really is quite a crammed grid so far.
Yes, as you say, Mark, so far it is a very, very crammed grid. I'm just trying to chroma key you in here. It's proving a little bit difficult, but I shall get that sorted. I think it's just because your lighting is a little bit...
Just make it green. Just make it green.
Yeah, I think that's going to be easiest for me here on my side. But yeah, let's just carry on watching. Max Verstappen has put himself up into second.
Electronic lights.
Yes, Max Verstappen has put himself up into second so far.
Max Verstappen.
0.1 behind Charles Leclerc.
F123 just saying, it's not lunchtime for me, it's midnight snack time. Well, be sure to go and grab yourself a snack.
Yes, go get that midnight snack there.
We've got less than 19 minutes left here.
Yes, a little bit of time left.
133.35.
Yes, very, very good lap time from Charles Leclerc. No problem, Mark. It's just a little bit of a delay from me to you, but we will carry on with it for now. Yeah, just carrying on watching here. My feed has gone to an ad break, so Mark is going to keep talking us through what is happening out on track.
Well, I'll attempt to, as my stream is just having a little bit of a stoppage here, but we still got just about 18.5 minutes left of the session. Leclerc has gone quickest, they're 133.3. Max Verstappen is just behind that. Lando Norris just behind that as well. Sergio Perez in 4th, Sainz in 5th, Tsunoda 6th, Russell 7, Hamilton 8, Ocon 9, and Gasly in 10th. Interestingly, unfortunately, Albon and Sargent not going very quickly in that Williams, and the Aston Martins have yet to come out on anything but hard tyres. So don't know what their tyres are going to be yet. We haven't seen them on the softs, but I'm hoping we'll see that before the end of the session.
Yes, hoping that we will see what their true pace is.
Let us know in the comments, guys. I'm just trying to... Oh.
Carry on there, Mark. I just said, yeah.
I thought Reese had disappeared for 2 seconds. Just seeing Ricky Games live saying, hello, can someone please tell me why Liam Lawson's name is the only one in capital letters? Well, I think it's because it's actually grabbed his name from the stats from the F2 because... that's why his name would be a little bit different, because he's not actually registered as an F1 driver before going into the season. So he's a reserve driver, of course. So he's gone into that as a... I think that's why our timing board has him in capitals. So that
well, it doesn't necessarily matter anyways. It just helps us actually pay good attention to him, because we want to see where he's going to perform this race weekend in correlation to his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who's currently up in 6th, Lawson down in 15th. But I think Liam Lawson could have some good pace out here this weekend. Just following out on who's on track right now, Lawson, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Zhou, Russell, Perez, Ocon, and Albon are all out on track at the moment. Not super, super busy, but still glad to have a lot of drivers out on track, Mark.
Yeah, and just looking at the beautiful scenery that is Singapore, it's great to have this race every year in Singapore, and it's certainly one of them my bucket list, and it should be on all of your bucket lists as well. An incredible city, an incredible racetrack, and yeah, an incredible vibe and atmosphere, I'm sure, as well. 17 minutes left. Charles Leclerc is going into the pits. His teammate Sainz, however, started a hot lap here. Let's see how close he can get to his own teammate, being Leclerc.
Yes, let's see what they can do throughout the rest of this. Free practice, 1 session. Leclerc, I think he is currently on a hot lap. No, he's not. Sorry, first sector times are yellow at the moment, so he's not on a hot lap. Currently on hot laps is Russell, Hamilton, and Lawson. Lawson has moved himself up now into 12th position, so slowly gaining more confidence around the circuit and improving his lap times. Gasly is also on a hot lap right now, putting in a personal best first sector for himself. Hamilton also up in the first sector for himself, and now in the middle sector as well. What can Russell do? I think those two teammates, Russell now comes across the line and puts himself up into 4th, so he's improved on his lap time. What will Hamilton be able to do, though, throughout the rest of his lap? Coming through the second sector, he's about to finish up that second sector. Where does he go? Just waiting. At 39.5 is his middle sector time. He will now be coming through that final sector. Will he be able to improve on his lap time and be able to beat his teammate George Russell?
I think this is the other way around. I think it's George Russell that we're following as a not Reese. That's going around. And
no, it's Lewis Hamilton.
Never mind. I think I'm a little bit behind.
Yes, you're behind me. Sorry.
My stream has dropped quite a lot. All right, there you go. I'm back to live. Apologies for that.
Hamilton now coming through the
issues here, but I'm
final
still bringing it
sector
to you.
here. Hamilton coming through the final 2 chicanes, approaching that start-finish line, coming now through turns 16, or sorry, through turns 18 and 19, the final corner on the circuit. A 133.3, that puts him ahead of his teammate in 4th. As I said, will he be able to get ahead of his teammate? Yes, he does. Well done, Lewis Hamilton. 0.19 ahead of George Russell. Sorry, 0.3 ahead of George Russell at the moment. George Russell, just watching a replay of his moment into turn 1. He gets caught up by the Red Bull a little bit there. Actually, I don't think he did get caught out at all. But George Russell getting really upset over the radio. But I think that the Red Bull got out of the way perfectly for him. Yeah, George Russell, once again, getting quite animated over the radio. Alonso's also out there on a hot lap right now. What can he do? Charles Leclerc also on a hot lap out there, setting the first fastest sector. Max Verstappen also on a out lap, possibly setting himself up for another hot lap. Lando Norris has put in some purple mini sectors, but no personal best sectors as of yet. What can Charles Leclerc do, though, as he's coming through that middle sector, Mark?
Yeah, let's see if Charles Leclerc can improve upon his time. Very interested, though, in Alonso's time as well, as he's going through on his first time on softs this weekend. And I'm really hoping to see him do very, very well. Charles Leclerc, as you say, with that purple first sector, I think he's going to improve upon his time. Sainz goes very close to his time in second. So we're seeing these times change rapidly right towards the end of practice 1 year.
Yes, seeing some very fast lap times being put in now at the end of the session. Charles Leclerc not improving on his middle sector. So I don't know if he'll be able to improve all that much now. Yeah, looks like he is a bit too far down in that final sector. He's approaching those last few corners now. Will he be able to improve? It looks like he does improve in that final sector. There's another yellow flag though, Mark. Yellow flag in sector 2.
Not good to see, not good to see, not good to see. Let's see if it's a big problem or maybe it's the same yellow flag we had earlier. Just precautionary, I think it was, because somebody was going slowly.
Albon
13
looks
minutes left
like
in the
he's
session.
going a bit slow. I don't know who it is possibly causing that yellow flag.
Nobody seems to be stopped on track. So that's a good piece of good news there. But as you say, Leclerc setting 2 purple sectors out of 3 in his race attempt there. Alonso, meanwhile, sits in 10th after his soft tire run, 0.88 seconds behind Charles Leclerc's quickest time. So
track is clear now. I think it may have been for the lizard again. Maybe moving its way back across the track again. Godzilla wanted another venture back to maybe the food stand or something on the other side of the track. Yeah, as Carlos Sainz confirms, another lizard in turn 9, and then being told by his engineer, copy that, we are reporting. Very interesting to see that we are having so many stoppages and interruptions from these lizards here this year.
It is very interesting to have the lizards there. And yeah, just having that confirmation from Sainz. I think it's also another interesting thing is the wildlife that we do see in F1. And I think that's another reason why we should try and get F1 back to South Africa, because imagine the wildlife that you'd see at Kyalami circuit versus what everyone else gets. We have beavers in
I thought you were going to say we'll see cougars at... you're going to say we're going to see cougars at Kyalami or what there, Mark? Because I don't know what other wildlife we're going to get there.
No.
Some cougars and maybe some wild South Africans.
Well, I think South Africans are themselves animals, so quite frankly,
party animals,
all
yes,
of us just wild people, party animals and otherwise. Yeah, I think maybe we'll see an escaped. I don't know what might we see in Kyalami. Certainly a few domestic cats, maybe as well. I know people are thinking Africa must be seeing lions and otherwise, but Kyalami is in such a built-up area. The most likely animal you're going to see on track is probably a dog or a cat.
Yes.
But you know what? I do quite enjoy seeing the different wildlife that we have in the different Formula 1 circuits. Here in Singapore so far, we've got the resident lizard, Godzilla.
Yes, resident lizard that we've seen over multiple years. I think this is the first one's child, because Max Verstappen did see one a couple years ago, and he says now this one's a little bit smaller though, so it might be Godzilla's daughter or son. Yeah, let's carry on watching though. Currently, Sergio Perez is back in the pits. We have Fernando Alonso blitzing it out there on circuit. A personal best first sector from himself. What can he do in terms of his lap times? We'd love to see now a great comparison to see where he can put himself in terms of those top 5 drivers. Max Verstappen currently out on a set of hard tyres though. What will he be able to do through his lap? Charles Leclerc setting another first purple sector there out on circuit, Mark. Pit lane is quite slow at the moment, as I see we do not have audio from Mark, unfortunately. Yeah, very, very interesting. Pit lane is still open right now. 9 minutes is left of the session as we see Fernando Alonso putting himself up into 8th position now as he crosses the line with a 1:33. Still a very good lap time from him, a 1:33.974.
Apologies there for the loss of sound. I think I should be back. So
yes, you are back.
Leclerc,
I think you may have muted yourself while you were having lunch.
Lap. Yes. So 132s I'm hoping to see from Leclerc. Sainz right on the tail of his teammates. So good to see the Ferrari showing a lot of pace there. Red Bull's Verstappen just a little bit behind them still. And Sergio Perez all the way down in 7th. And as you say, Alonso in 8th now. I think I'm still hoping to see some more pace from that Aston Martin.
Yes, I'm also still hoping to see some pace from the Aston Martins this weekend. Hopefully they can go and make a few setup changes and get themselves back into contention in FP2 a little bit later this afternoon. That session will go live straight after this. We'll redirect you straight into that session. I've already set all of that up. So, yeah, let's see what happens there. Mark is with us, though, for the review after that session, and then I'll be taking you live through that Formula 1 session. Alex Albon now finishing up a lap for himself in the Williams. Where does he go? As he crosses the line, he goes up into 12th. Not a bad lap time from himself right now. Still lots of time to improve.
No, not too bad there from Alex Albon. But I do want to see a quicker time from him as well, because I think he's been doing so well this season. Great to see him in the top 10, but he's not quite there yet. Nat Williams really struggling a little bit in this track right now. Piastri's also all the way down in 19th in the pits at the moment, so hoping that it's not going to be huge problems there for that McLaren there. We'll see how that improves over the course of the day. But currently, we still have those 2 Ferraris in 1st and 2nd, Red Bull in 3rd, Norris in 4th, and that other McLaren. So clearly, the McLarens have got pace, but Piastri just needs to get back out there, basically.
Yes, I would like to see what Piastri can do this race weekend. I don't think we've necessarily seen him being comfortable yet at the circuit. It may take a few more laps and a bit more time in FP2. It is a very tricky circuit, and you really need to get your eye in before you start taking bigger risks and trying to extract lap time. Yeah, incredible. I love watching these shots of this incredible hotel that looks out over the Marina Bay with that massive panoramic pool. It's just such an iconic shot of Singapore. Yuki Tsunoda coming around, putting himself a little bit faster at the moment. I say that though, but he has not improved on his first sector time at all. Yeah, what can he do in terms of his race weekend compared to his new teammate Liam Lawson?
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens there with the Alphatauri team. But these new upgrades, I don't know how much time they're going to find. I mean, are we suddenly going to see a completely revived team, or are we just going to see, a little bit quicker in the back end? I mean, that's the big thing, is everyone talks about these massive upgrades that teams bring to tracks, and we've never really seen them make that much of a difference. The only team we saw this season have a huge change up with upgrades was McLaren, obviously going into Silverstone.
You say that, Mark, but AlphaTauri have brought a major upgrade package this race weekend. They've completely changed the side pods in their car. They've got a massive underwash near the rear. They've got a big slide. They've taken a lot of inspiration from multiple teams, not just one team. So it's very, very interesting to see what they've done for this race weekend. We'll have to wait and see, though, whether they're able to make massive gains. Just watching Yuki Tsunoda carrying on around this at the moment. And yeah, we'll see what happens throughout the rest of this. I think maybe he's just been doing some race sims because he was very slow on that lap.
Yeah, no, so Yuki Tsunoda going around very, very slowly. I think we are into the race simulation. So I'm not sure we're going to see these times improve, guys, unfortunately. Pretty much what you're looking at is the final